Anime is a vast and varied medium, and if you're not already familiar, it can be daunting to find something you might be interested in watching. This is a podcast where three average anime enjoyers introduce their uninitiated co-host to their favorite anime touchstones, so he can join them deep in the Weebs. This week we watched Martian Successor Nadesico, an anime which aired from 1996 to 1997, consists of 26 episodes, and was replaced by the Pokemon anime in its time slot.
Wait, really?
Yes.
Oh shit, I had no idea.
Wait, okay, this is a show that's much newer than I thought it was.
The
Yeah.
series takes place in the year 2196. Earth is at war with a race of alien invaders called the Jovian Lizards, because they come from Jupiter. A company called Nergal Heavy Industries designs a space battleship, the ND-001 Nadesico. While the ship is powerful and its crew consists of the top civilian experts in their fields, these individuals tend to have, quote, some slight personality disorder. The primary protagonist, Akito Tinkawa, was once a resident of Mars's Utopia colony. He escaped its destruction by the Jovian lizards and arrived on Earth with no memory of how he got there. He hates fighting and only wants to be a chef. However, he is constantly called on to act as a pilot of one of the Nadesico's humanoid combat robots. While on board the ship, Akito has more problems to deal with than just the Jovians. Nearly all the female members of the crew, especially the vessel's captain, seem to be head over heels in love with him. All he wants to do is cook and watch his favorite anime, Geki Gengar 3. The series features an energetic juxtaposition of comedy and drama, as the characters engage in lighthearted antics in between facing the drama of war. Many of the characters are themselves anime fans, and there is often comparison between the campy, sanitized war of the anime within an anime, Geki Gengar 3, and the much harsher reality that the crew faces. Nadesico makes intentional references throughout the show to other popular anime in the genre, and intentionally includes a number of science fiction anime cliches, but turns these concepts on their heads by the end of the series. So I believe Nick was the one who put this one on the list.
So, y'all might remember at the end of the last episode, I was kind of struggling to say why to be excited for this show. But honestly, like, I still can't put it into words, but when I was watching this show, I was just really having a good time. Like, it's got a lot of ups and downs, and so much of what it is sort of like built on. It is a Frankenstein show. It is a patchwork mosaic of other like anime iconic touchstones. But also, like, it's just kind of a fun time, and there are a couple of little things that it does really well that I really appreciate, and it just, like, if nothing else, like, okay, I know we're going to talk about the pacing at some point, but, like, this is definitely not as, like, overwhelmingly crunched as something like FLCL, but it also does not linger at all. So if it does something weird that doesn't land, we're already on to the next thing.
At the end of the last episode, I really feel like it's going to be a setup to this show. So watching it was not what I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that sounds cryptic, but it'll be more explanation at the end.
Mm-hmm. All right, shall we dive into the first episode then? We watched 4 episodes as usual. We watched episodes 1, 2, 3, and 14.
Don't worry about it. It's fine.
As one does.
Episode 1, To Go Like a Man.
So this was an opening episode. It just kind of throws you right into it right at the beginning. You get kind of a theme. Not really, because we're already in a battle with the Jovians. They don't explain they're from Jupiter, but they're flying around after escaping from a Comatia in space that opens up to show, obviously, Jupiter. They're in a battle against the Earth fleet. Is it the Earth fleet or the Martian fleet? Because they're protecting Mars, but I would assume that they're from Earth.
So
they
It's
really
the
say?
United Federation. I think it's just kind of like the group of planets that humans live on.
Yeah, I believe the Martian colonists are like, it is an Earth colony, I believe.
Okay.
So like they probably would have gotten into things about like no Martian taxation without representation if it wasn't for the fact that suddenly a space war broke out.
The Juvians are coming to attack Mars for reasons I'm assuming are explained later, but we really don't know. We're just really angry because they fly around in weird bug-shaped machines, and yet are called lizard people. Neither here nor there. Defense Force puts up as strong as a fight it can. It really doesn't work out because the lizard people have a laser that's stronger and can somehow bend lasers around them against the other fleet. The defense fleet, with the exception of the big ship, all blow up. The big ship's like, abandoned ship. We're gonna just ram into the Tomatia, which works. Bring it down. And Q going to Mars, where they're all really upset because there's fighting above their head, as anyone would. Got a cute moment where our protagonist Takeda is with a girl and a little girl, and the little girl with gigantic eyeballs gives him fruit. They're all happy until, boom, one of the bug things come crawling in. And as a way to fight off this bug thing, Akito grabs the local lawnmower, uses his tattoo on his hand and the rock on his necklace to drive this bug into a wall. Everything is...
I don't know why they show the necklace there, because like the
serves no purpose. All the episodes we watched, to me, it's like, oh yep, that's cute jewelry. Go you.
I feel like the necklace, going in blind to this, I got a feeling in my fugue stake notes I even put like, it's a magic space necklace, because as he's dying it glows, and then we'll talk about where I saw it again later when we get there.
You know what?
Gotcha.
I gotta add part to my notes because in the anime server I'm in, we've been watching Nadia and the Secret of Blue Water, and it's almost the exact same sort of MacGuffin necklace. I'm just gonna write that down. Don't worry about it.
So Kito's all thrilled. He broke this robot. The people around him are cheering. Then who knew an invasion force has more than one insect man robot? Several others come in, and all Akito does is just, help out. No, he's busy just sitting there watching people die. I would assume it's also including the little girl giving him fruit, because boy, do we flash back to that an awful lot.
Yeah,
So-
it's kind of like a very direct, like scientifically applied, let's give our protagonist some trauma.
Uh-huh. And yet still better done than the opening of Mass Effect 3, where Shepard just sees that one kid in a hoodie.
Shots fired.
Bob would tell you there is a certain trilogy of games I have played multiple times over hundreds of hours for each.
I hope
Sir,
I got my magic
I'm gonna
rock.
get an iron glove. I'm gonna
I hope you got
catch
it
one
right.
day.
Well, listen,
I'm also props to Bob for remembering that, because guess what I started replaying recently?
ooh.
Oh.
All I'll say is, slight spoilers, she does not come back at the end of the series and ask you to pick one of 4 colors. Or one of 4 colors, one of them being no color after a patch.
Quote unquote, the impulsive color.
Uh-huh.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's a perfect game, but how dare you, sir?
I'm just asking the questions. I'm drawing the parallels.
That wasn't a question, that was a declarative statement.
Yeah, it's true. All right, go on.
The season ends, like Chuck mentioned, with his glowy rock, and we don't really know if he makes it out or not. He's the protagonist. He gets out. So,
Shock.
some time later, and we meet, I don't remember his name, but he's a very horrible person. No, he's not. Meeting of the planets, pretty much. They're
We
like,
meet
what we're
the
gonna do.
goat.
Yeah,
So
I did not catch his name. He's just the big man.
No,
with
his
the
name is
flat top.
His
Mr.
name is-
Goat.
Golgo 13.
His name is Gold 13. and try saying that one time any speed. I dare you.
Mr. Goat.
Anyway, they are put on the task of getting a bunch of people together to fly their new ship. So we get a team. It's a team. We've got an actress,
Where
a
do we
voice
begin?
actress, a secretary who is quitting because, she got another job, a robot lady, a guy who is just
A man
building-
making a robot
yeah.
lady
a very womanly robot lady.
who apparently also wants nothing to do with his literal actual wife and child.
Mm-hmm.
Eureka, who I will name because she is probably the one we hear from the most, and Eureka's special friend, which I say it that way not for her sake but for his.
You
Mm-hmm.
mean Friend Zone Kun?
I feel so bad for him. The entire thing.
It's alternate universe Miki from Utena.
No, Miki knows his place. No, he does. And let me tell you, I can tell you right now, you really don't know Miki. Because let me tell you, there's a can of worms. I'm going to put the lid back on that one real quick.
Yeah, all right. I'm sure, but all right.
So we got a team together that would not be on anyone's list any time of anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And got straight to Akito. We got an explanation of how he got out of there? No, that would make sense. Instead, we find out that he is a cook. He's a cook at a diner, I guess, where they're showing clips of the war outside. And apparently there is a war literally above their heads. Because Akito's freaking out because he still has some trauma from dealing with, exploding big-eyed girl and everybody else there. He just stands there, unable to fry until he screams, then says, "Oops, I burnt the food."
Mm-hmm.
Everyone around is like, "Oh, that's not so good." So his boss lets him go after giving him 2 weeks' pay.
Did
I
you
think
ever
it's
get
nice.
paid and then fired in the same moment?
A note to the listeners: the English voice actor for Akito is
Is it him?
the voice actor for Shinji Ikari, and that is all I am saying about that.
The original
Nick,
voice actor.
Yeah,
Nick,
the original voice actor.
I need to know, do you got the censor button ready?
I
fucking knew it. I'm sitting there listening to the whole first episode, and I know I'm going to get a little ahead of where we're at in the show, but as soon as it was there, like, you've got to get in the robot, or injured person will have to pilot. And I'm like, oh!
Mm-hmm.
Literally threw my chair backwards.
Except A, injured person wants to pilot. B, he gets in the robot and runs away. So,
It's not the point. The point is, like, suddenly just my brain was like, oh, I saw God for a minute.
But yes, carry on.
So you answered that question for me.
Mm-hmm.
Cut to Akito walking home, and he's just minding his own business until he gets hit pretty much by a couple people on a bike. Ends up being Eureka, who feels real bad, to be fair, and she spills all of her clothes everywhere, and he gets all blushy because he picks up her underwear. And Eureka somehow, after time, because I don't even think that they knew each other on Mars during the attack, but she remembers him as a kid and is like, "Oh, you love me and I love you," and it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing. Welcome to like 70% of her character.
Yes.
I was gonna say,
Eureka is very for the episodes that I watch, she's very two-dimensional. Which isn't a bad thing, mind you, because then you don't have to put too much thought into it.
She's
But
like
just know-
isometric. She's like 2.5D.
She's very aware what she's about, and that is the most positive I think you're going to hear out of me about her.
We will discuss about her further later because we do have other episodes to go through. But from this point right now, it's like, for me, it felt like a setup of we're going to be hearing about this over and over.
Mm-hmm. So
Ain't wrong.
in this scene, this is the first one where it always picks out to me. This show is wild with its pacing. Because like this is a scene where like they get introduced, they're like, I guess I don't know you, but then like real time, like less than a minute later, it's like, oh, he's caught up on what's going on, and now like the entire like arc of his character has changed. This show loves to like not linger a point. Like this show is not a slow burn at all. In fact, sometimes it is like there are points in this show, especially later, where like months will go by in a cut that is the same as any other cut in the show in a shot. It just like does no effort to let you know or do any like establishing shots to give you a sense of how much time is passing. So stuff just keeps happening. And I think this first one, like it I'm glad they don't. After last week, I'm glad that they don't linger on anything for too long, if even long enough at all sometimes. But like that is just like, I think it leads to some of the up and downs of the show, because like there's like, oh, sometimes you're appreciating that it is not dragging something out, but then also it's just like, hey, we could have talked about that for another minute here. Hold on, what happened?
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. I felt whiplash for like the first. In my notes, if you look at them, I think it's like the third episode where they mention a time frame, and I literally whiplashed my neck. Like, are you kidding me? So I will say though, to your point, we'll balance this perspective out. I appreciate that it does go that fast, because until you get that reveal, it does kind of do like a good blending effect of just like it goes fast enough you don't stop to think about it until they give you something to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on, we see him realizing that he does want to talk to Eureka, because he remembers that she was there when his parents died, which kind of annoyed me-ish. I'm trying to figure out what his motivation is, because his parents died. That's why he joined the army, and then he has this trauma from everybody else dying. It's like you're really trying to load on Akito.
Okay, so
Too complex.
How much do y'all want me to jump in with like clarifying context from episodes we didn't watch?
You know me, I don't care about spoilers or any kind of thing, because that doesn't affect my perspective on it.
And not to spoil too much, but we did watch episode 14.
Yeah, but like even that kind of just goes over some of the info that like we get in these and a little bit past, but everything about that is like, I really wouldn't call it spoilers. Like it is just like late premise, if that makes sense.
I mean, that's fine either way, regardless of what we're calling it or what we're touching on. I have no negative feeling one way or the other.
Bob?
I'm willing to learn.
So he does say it out loud while he's like venting and biking. I only know this because I've watched the entire series twice, and these like first handful of episodes like 5 times. But like so his parents were killed in a suspicious lab accident on the day that Eureka and her parents departed for Mars.
They mentioned that one like second episode.
And he's definitely like, hey, I think there's something up with this. I think like his parents were doing science for the military, and she's obviously a military family. So I think he's like, oh, you probably know something about this. This can't be coincidence. And she doesn't know anything about it because she's totally oblivious.
Yeah, I feel like they cover that in the episodes we watched from all 3.
Yeah, they do. Oh yeah, over time.
So in the meantime, we see this crew come in. The episodes that we watched, you really don't get a connection to the crew too much, but you can appreciate their conversation. Don't really get a backstory outside of Rico and Akito. My opinion. There's characters to like, and they are great entertainment, but you know their background, you learn everything in this episode about them. That makes sense.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, like, so this show is definitely trying to be a Tenchi Muyo like harem anime.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense of just that, like, a lot of these characters that they have surrounded the main character with, you know, our crew, they are kind of there to be archetypes more than they are to be characters. And even later in the series, they never get particularly deeper. They do end up like doing stuff and having arcs, but we really don't get more of their backstory than the little montage as they're picking everybody up at the beginning of the episode. Except Rory.
And
We get a lot about Rory, which is good because she's the best one.
she is definitely entertaining because she is so very robot, I guess, but not. She is a weird character that I appreciate. So they all load into Nadesico, and they see that there is a mech there because what good anime doesn't have a mech, right?
Right.
Yes. Yes.
And we are introduced to Guy, which is
Guy Ritchie.
Sure. And no, he has a full name. I call him Guy.
AKA Juro Yamada, but his soul's name is Guy Daigoji.
Yes.
Oh.
So Guy is convinced he is the best pilot of them all. Shows off all of the fancy moves, including almost falling over. He's clearly the comic relief. I'm here for it.
He's the best. He's the best.
They end up being attacked, and in which case, Akito happens to also be a pilot. He has the fun pilot tattoo, which we find out is a thing because Uri has her own holographic tattoos that aren't pilot tattoos.
I believe they are technically different. Hers are for the computer interface.
Which is weird because, no, she's not the pilot though, is she? It's, oh my goodness. I want to say the voice actress is the actual pilot.
I believe you are correct. I am not gonna lie. This is the point where I had a real hard time because in the first episode and the second episode, I don't feel like I got a lot of names, at least not that were clearly spelled out for me.
Yeah.
And
if it's not
their jobs
Akito,
were
Eureka,
kind of, yeah,
or Rory, I guess, because she looks so different.
if you're not a character on the cover, you're not really getting the full name treatment and introduction. Everyone kind of had very ambiguous jobs. Like, we are here. What do you do? We are here.
Mm-hmm.
And they're there to just speak for 5 minutes and have their one-liner and move on.
Yeah, they're there to be the peanut gallery and make snide comment about everything going on, which, you know what? I do love it. It doesn't make sense, but I love it.
So Keto just happens to fall in due to the battle and goes into the cockpit to join Guy. But I don't really feel like that matters too much other than we see Akito can pilot because the Nadesico comes up and blasts the, I would say, Monster of the Week, but that's not really the case, but it's kind of the case. Which is good.
It's not the case.
I know, and one of the parts that bugs me is at the end, they celebrate that only 5 people died.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why that's like, woohoo.
Well,
I mean,
so Bob,
considering it's like they've been having all kinds of fights with these terrible lizard people or whatever, and losing entire cities and colonies.
yeah, like the
you got to look at it from a military perspective, Bob. It could have been worse.
That's true.
And let me tell you, my notes are littered with accurate depiction of military fill in blank word.
But from the scene at the diner earlier, like what that's trying to show is that everybody is like the UF is getting so soundly defeated in every battle that everyone's just like, oh, there they go again. They're going to get blown up again. So the idea that
To be fair, they do sound very desensitized.
Yeah. That was very clear, and man, I'm like, oof.
But yeah, I think that's what they're going with. It's like, wow, normally we lose everyone, but this time we only lost 5. Wow, this is the Nadesico is the best warship that has ever been produced. It's the best warship since the Yamato 2. I feel like we do gotta talk a little bit about that fight because it's like Akito falls into the cockpit because the guy asked him to get his Geki Gengar 3 action figure out of the cockpit because he brought it with him into his robot like a teddy bear.
Cute.
Oh, I
Yeah,
love
it's
Guy.
like a little dash hula dancer or something.
You know who Guy reminds me of? Hoban Washburn from Firefly.
Yeah.
But like once he's in the cockpit, everyone's like, "Oh, we gotta launch the robots," and Ruru's like, "Yeah, one's already launching." And so they bring Akito up on screen, and they're just like, "Oh, what? You also thought that the best thing to do was to send the robot out as a decoy to, give the ship time to spool up the engines and launch?" And he's just like, "What? No, I was just running away. I don't want to bother with this war stuff. I have PTSD." But then he ends up, it turns out, running away is the best strategy for being a decoy, and yeah, it gives the ship plenty of time to come out of the water and just end the fight with one big blast.
Yeah, I gotta say, okay. This will lead into the fight, so go with me on this journey. When we met Admiral Nepotism, her father, Eureka's father, I call him that because of kind of what we learned in the next episode led me to believe, maybe someone got his daughter a job. And also, I gotta really say I have a problem. I got a problem with him.
Okay, just one.
Many, but we're gonna go with the biggest one I've got a problem with, and it's that he's a sex pest for his own daughter, kind of.
Absolutely.
And I'm not gonna lie, this made this very hard to watch. Like anytime he came on screen, I had to struggle not to just like, I'm turning this off now.
Yeah.
But that being
I
said,
forgot about that. That's right. And I was going to ask about that. Does that translate differently, Joe? I don't know if you watched the dubbed or the subbed.
No, I watched the dub. I didn't
I will
watch
let
the
you know.
Japanese.
Okay, so peek behind the curtain of how I watched this.
Guessing there wasn't. It's not a translation error thing.
I watched the first episode on Crunchyroll before I realized that the link you gave us, Nick, led to the dub. I didn't read that part of the link. Full disclosure. I was like, oh, I know it's on Crunchyroll. I'll watch it. And it does not translate differently at all. He is very proud of how endowed his daughter is. And that being the first thing or kind of like the biggest thing he talks about, I'm not going to lie, really hurt this for me. But I didn't mean to get on that tangent. The tangent I'm trying to get on is that he talks to her and she is, sweet as a cinnamon roll, personality-wise. But I guess I've heard it put this way, pure of heart and dumb of ass.
Okay.
And we're getting to why this is relevant to the fight, because when Akito, when legally distinct Shinji falls into the robot, "You're gonna be my white knight." Like, man, that translates differently in the modern lexicon. But it's like, "You're gonna save me. You're gonna protect me." It's like, oh my, like you're the only one in the room that doesn't get what's going on here, do you? Or aren't you? Okay. So, like I said, she knows what she's about. She knows what world she lives in, more or less, and it's her world. And more power to her. But her like totally misreading this situation does somehow tactically work for her. And I gotta give credit for failing upward, but being genuinely, actually, positively successful doing so.
Yeah, like when you say nepotism is probably involved, like A, absolutely, but B, like they try to do the thing where like she is when she went to Captain Academy, she graduated like top of her class and she was undefeated in simulated battles, which is like, okay, so she's valedictorian, but also this is her first time actually commanding a ship.
I need you to tell me, because this is the only part I need to know.
Okay.
Did Daddy rig the scores?
No, there was at one point, I forget which episode it was in, but they're like, "Oh, what do we do?" And she just like completely rattles off like a tactical plan.
And I saw that, and I'm like, and I guess part of me is like, yeah, sure, okay, that's legit. But there's enough, like what we kind of get, where I came to the conclusion of daddy nepotism in episode 2. Let me believe, eventually monkeys and typewriters and Shakespeare. So it's one of those like I can't tell. I want to believe because of the way they're setting up and what they showed us. Yeah, she's actually there, but then her father
No,
undermines all of that for me in my viewing of this.
if it was that kind of thing, I definitely feel like if he was being like full on nepotism, he would be the kind of dad who like gives her like a reserves position so that way she can be have the notoriety of captain but also not be in real danger, because he's like, oh, my precious little daughter, well endowed as she may be. But that's actually one of the things that I like about this. One of the things I like about the show is that like a lot of people actually have like, for as waka waka and dumb as people are when it comes to the relationship stuff, because you got to add drama to your harem show,
as
like
you do.
When it comes to the combat and action scenes, everyone is pretty well like competent. Like Eureka is definitely like two-faced about it, because she is living completely in her own world and her own delusion when it comes to her relationship with Aikido. But then as soon as it's like, what do we do in this fight, like everything about her changes and she's just like pure competency. But like even Aikido, like he is trying to run away and is just like arguing with himself about like, why am I still here putting up with this? But also just like taking out Jovian drones all the while. So it's just like some of the reason why I would say they luck into tactical advantages, but I think it's not so much luck, so much like they are lucky that they are all competent enough that even when everybody is sort of like misunderstanding everything, they're still competent enough to get victories, which I like a good competent character.
I do. I like a competent character that, when it's depicted, and I'm going to use a perspective here, when what I feel is depicted well, it's just like I said, there's just enough in the setup of all of this that undermines my ability as a viewer, or undermines the suspension of disbelief as a viewer to fully say like, okay, that's what it is, just because I'm not sure. Again, we'll address it in episode 2. There's enough setup there for me to say like, I now feel like I need to doubt certain things. But again,
Yeah.
that's I will also say we can totally blame that on the fact that I am that kind of viewer that enjoys a show where it's like, but not everything is as it seems. And maybe everything what do you mean everything we knew wasn't real? Yeah. So I won't lie. Those same things play to that in me of like, maybe that's what it is. And this got more interesting. So like I said, it's just really hard for me when I see those. I'm not trying to slam it, but it's just like, I start.
You can't help but think about it.
Yeah, I can't help but analyze it and start to overanalyze it as a result. It's like, so
hey, listen, I can empathize completely with that. Let me just say.
Yeah, I figured if anyone could, you would.
I get where you're coming from, because for me, this episode really downplayed Eureka for me, and I really don't know that I got on board with her the entire time. However, I think she's smarter than what we give her credit.
She's pulling a Vash the Stampede.
And I think
she just has no emotional intelligence.
And I think where we put a lot of the issues with her outside of this Aikido problem is anytime she has a scene with her father.
Yeah.
I think our problem is more with her father, not with her.
And I'm willing to say that's probably it. I'm letting the daughter be burdened with the sins of the father being who he is. But it's one of those like I've only seen to that point like an episode and a half, and I'm like, don't know. Yeah. So because I'll tell you in my notes, if we look at them, and for one, it's like I do feel like I give her credit into like falling backwards into an amazing strategy that would work and makes perfect sense to me. So before the doubt button really started to set in. So
if it interests anybody, like the way they actually go with that is and we'll get to this, but like this show loves to sometimes just flip the way too dark handle. But like what they do a couple of times with her is they actually go into she is constantly this thing about like, oh, why doesn't Akito love me as much as I know he loves me? Like they're always doing that, but they also love to give her layers of like, hey, you are captain of a battleship during wartime. You have to make choices when there are no good decisions. Like that's going to happen like 2 episodes from now is like a super dark decision. Like the kind of scene where it's like, are we going to do A or B? And then they do a shot with no sound, but you see her mouth move, and then you can tell by the action which one she went with, and you're just like, oh shit. They do want like that kind of heavy scene. And then they actually do a lot about sort of like those choices weighing on her, and that adds a level of complexity to her character. So it is not.
Yeah, a little bit of that gets shown in 14 in the clip show when they're looking back on stuff.
Yes. So that they do some interesting stuff with her and her like naivete in captainhood, but it is usually around the like the moral weight rather than anything about tactician credibility. So there's it may not be what you're expecting from this setup, but there's something there at least to chew on.
Fair.
And thus is episode 1.
I will say I appreciate that she brought her teddy bear into war with her.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you gotta have support.
Also, I'm going to circle back. I'm calling bold because, again, we've only watched 4 episodes. I have not seen a lizard once, and those big bad Beetleborgs they attack with absolutely do not look like lizards.
Okay, so I think the reason they're called lizards is because it's a direct nod to Macross.
Okay, so we're intentionally misidentifying them for the point of a reference. Okay, that helps.
Because I think in Macross they do the same thing where like at the start of the series you're just fighting like the unmanned drone sent because of, you know, speed and relativity and such. Mm-hmm. But when you finally meet the people, I believe they are like green-skinned aliens in that show, and so it's just like, oh, lizards, got it. I believe. I haven't watched all of Macross, or at least not in a while.
That's fair. I just, like I said, it was one of those like, it's like y'all are actually humans, right? Y'all know what lizards look like. We haven't gone far enough in the future where lizards don't exist, right? We haven't like completely wiped out that whole spectrum of life on Earth.
Also, by the way, Joe, does Jovian just mean from Jupiter?
Jupiter, yes.
Okay.
Jupiter, also known as Jove, was the Roman name for the
Zeus,
head of the gods. So that's where you get like by Jove.
Oh,
I took Latin. I knew that.
Congrats.
I took
French.
I go to Jupiter to get less stupider.
Listen, I didn't have a choice. It was a Catholic school, and they didn't offer anything interesting. Yeah, listen, there's a reason the name Maverick sticks.
Yeah. Okay, episode 2?
Episode 2. Leave the blue earth to me.
So this episode opens up with a meeting of Nurgle. And, what?
We'll get to it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, they're going to send Nurgle to Abu Dhabi. Don't worry about it.
Yes, so we have Eureka's dad, whose name still eludes me. And
Admiral Nepotism.
Yes. And he has a good buddy, the chief from Mulan, if you remember, the Emperor's sidekick. They're all together because they would like, and I didn't realize this, that the Nadesico is not part of the military.
Right.
Yeah, that was kind of glossed over.
So Nergal is Nergal Heavy Industries. They are a company. They are the ones who created the Nadesico, and they are the ones who currently have ownership of the Nadesico. So the guy with the weird like purple bowl cut who looks kind of like the narrator from G Gundam in outfit, that guy is like an accountant or a representative from the company, and that is why he is the one who picks up Mr. Goat, the big man, and together they go and pick up the rest of the crew, is because like he is a company man. And yes, they are unaffiliated with, apparently they're
I imagine they like contract with the military on occasion or something. Like they seem like they have some sort of.
yeah, which I think is what this episode is about. Is there is some issue of like there was a contract to get government like design assistant or something,
Yeah.
but then they were going to be left independent, and then the military is like, but what if you worked for us instead of being independent? But yeah,
What do you mean the military robbing civilians of, their own developments? What?
But doesn't Yuriko's dad say that he supports this? Because he ends up going out to try to get them.
I forget if it's more the second episode or this episode, but there's definitely like conversation within the UF talking about, should we just shoot down the Nadesico or should we try to capture it? And
It was in 3.
okay, because I know he definitely supports capturing it, because A, he
Right.
doesn't want to shoot down his own daughter, but B, everyone loves to say like, oh, the Nadesico is like the best warship that's ever been built. It would be a shame to destroy it when we could use it on our side to turn the tide of the war.
Military likes the civilian toy. The military wants to steal the civilian toy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say it's not so much that I'm sure he's for it on like a military level, but his real issue at this point is like, yes, let's capture it so I can get my daughter back and she doesn't die.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure and things that will happen in episode, is this episode or episode 3?
Episode.
Lead me to believe that he's fully aware of, if he doesn't do this, she will be in the line of fire, even though it hasn't been said yet. So, yeah, Nick, I gotta interject and ask for a question.
Okay.
Because you're referring to Nergal, because of and also obviously different pronunciations everywhere across the board.
Yeah.
Was this after Ava?
I'm not sure. My guess is yes, but this is a question for Joe.
Typey.
Oh, I was gonna say, Joe, same question.
Ava was 1995, so it was 1 year before the show.
The logo, and then when you're pronouncing it Nergal, I'm like,
Uh-huh.
Right?
And also, this is where I'll just get it out of the way for Bob. Bob, I'm going to tell you right now that a lot of 40K fans are not going to appreciate how we're mispronouncing Nurgle.
Yes.
All none of them that listen.
There could be one or two, you don't know.
I mean, there could be one or two, in which case, hey, how you doing? But
I would not like to buy models. Thank you for asking.
No, but I'll talk to you about your paint tips later, because I'm on the hobby aspect. But anyway,
I only know him as the Sumerian deity, but okay.
Yeah, that's where they're pulling from. Go figure.
I figured.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. But just as soon as I heard Nurgle, I'm like, oh man, the 40K fans are gonna be upset you spelled Nurgle wrong. But no, that's it really.
But Keto comes home. Keto comes home. Oh my goodness. Keto comes to his senses anyway, because he does not want to be a fighting pilot. He'd rather be a cook. He feels that's his strength. He left the army because, the whole issue that went down with Big Eyed Girl.
So, okay. He never was army.
Was he? Oh, no,
Civilian.
I guess because he was just stuck in the cave with the.
He had his forklift license. That's what the thing on his hand is.
Basically, yes. Like the same interface that all the mechs use is also used for like civilian purposes. But with a war going on, everyone assumes that he is a yellow, fighter pilot. But
coward.
Or it may have something to do with, because we'll talk about it more in episode 3. But he has always been a civilian. He's not actually a deserter.
Oh, so he's happy. Okay, so he's happy being a cook. And even Guy would be happy for him to stay a cook, even though a cook flies better than Guy, according to everyone else.
Well, he didn't break his own leg before entering battle, so.
Yeah, so you ever pilot something so wrong that you broke your own leg?
And he walks on it periodically because they reference him not using his cane.
Yeah, that fucking killed me as someone who has broken their feet.
Yeah, I got a laugh out of that.
The fleet, we cue over to them. They've discovered that there's an underwater Tomatia that they need to take care of. We once again flip over because Eureka is still convinced that Akita loves her. And she's like, I'm going to go talk to him. Akito is kind of busy. He's getting out of the shower, and he really doesn't want to bring up and talk about it. But Eureka does have her own key because she is captain and comes in, and they just have this whole conversation. I think they discuss how his parents died, if I recall.
Yeah, they also discuss something else, Bob.
They discuss a couple of things here.
Because
where do we want to start?
As we all know, Eureka. And let me tell you, it wasn't until I switched to the English dub that I realized
Eureka?
They're going for Eureka. Eureka.
That also pissed me off.
Yeah. Oh, that made me so. Let me tell you, I got so mad. I walked away when I was watching that. When I switched over to the dub, I'm like, that's what it has been the whole time. That's not the point. The point is, as we all know, Eureka is the model of professionalism and diligence and respect. So when she walks in on a naked crew member, only to then turn around, sit down, have tea, I'm assuming, with him, and say, "By the way, nice piece you got there."
Well, so A, she takes after her father, but B,
Yeah.
like, this is the second walk in while you're just out of the shower scene in just as many episodes. Like, and
Yeah.
I'm actually I want to place that at the feet of this doing the harem show thing, because that is absolutely generic harem show waka waka take on comedy. Is
You're
like,
not
whoops,
wrong.
you're naked. And I see you. Oh no. Like, and even the scene where they pick up all of her suitcases, it's like the panty thing right there. Like, that is a tone of humor that is going to keep coming back, because this truly believes itself to be a harem comedy show, and so it is going to keep doing that humor.
Let's say that. God, I just realized the sentence I'm about to say and how it could be interpreted.
Oh, I can't wait.
The DNA of Tenchi Muyo is all over this. I'm just gonna say,
yes.
Amongst other shows too. Interpret that as you will, and it shows with this. So, I say this having watched and gotten through all of the various original Tenchi series, the first three and their films. This is one of those, I feel like they're trying a little too hard. And that may also be what they're going for, which I can see that being the case, but it's one of those, like, I don't, it's just enough for me to say, it puts me in that, like, iffy if I can tolerate it or not, as opposed to just saying, this is what you are and you're aware of it. It's like, well, this is what we are, and we're kind of pushing a little harder on it.
Is it they're trying too hard, or is it that they are doing it just to do it? Like, they're doing it to, like, tick off.
That might be, and that might be, because when you say it like that, it's like I could kind of see that being more the issue. It's like, haha, we have to make the joke here, and it does feel very forced, I guess, is what either
forced,
way.
Yeah. Well, because just looking at it in terms of, like, when you put that together with all of the other shows that this show is built out of references to, and when you consider the pacing issues, and, like, this show doesn't know, like, which beats to stop and linger on, really. Very rarely does it correctly do that. It's just like it is whipping past as though it is going down a checklist, not telling a story.
And that might be, I think, where the whiplash I was experiencing is coming from, now that we're kind of delving into a little bit. It's like, it does feel like we're just checking off a lot of boxes, and I have never been a big fan of that.
Yeah. I think that's why this was part of, like, that was part of why this was a hard show to, like, pitch enthusiastically, because there is a lot of things about it where you're just like, oh, this almost feels like an off-brand version of all of those shows you love. For like, it definitely has a lot of moments in itself that are enjoyable, and, like, I don't know. Does this show almost think that this show is the Simpsons of mech shows? Because it's just like if you don't know stuff like Getter Robo or Tenchi Muyo, if you somehow managed to miss those, but you saw this show, they are just doing it, and you could be like, oh, it's like that thing from Nadesico. Like they do it fully enough that you like could understand it from here.
You know, I was actually going to say when you said The Simpsons, I was going to say this is just like a lesser Futurama for anime
Oh, interesting.
because it's playing on all the tropes,
Yeah.
but it's instead of just kind of playing with them and having fun, it's more like, no, we're throwing this in here now. We're going to jam as many as we can that we can say we did them.
It's jamming the tropes, not really exploring the tropes. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Oh
there's
my
no
God.
commentary on it. Yeah, it's just do that.
The worst example of that, we get a glimpse of it in episode 14, so we'll talk about it then. Yeah, you know the one.
Continue, Bob. I'm sorry to have derailed.
It is fine. So we go through this entire scene with Eureka and Keto, only to once again flip scenes.
Sorry,
Yeah, I'm totally skipping over everything.
No. Just one last thing about that, which I thought was kind of important. Like, because Joe, you said earlier that Eureka has no emotional intelligence, but she says like the smartest thing right here, which is, if you're mad about something, talk it out instead of just closing up and letting the anger like simmer. And I'm just like, wow, that is the first thing she said that is actually true.
Yeah.
That's all I had.
Gotcha. We skip up to the bridge because Eureka's dad's there with, I think Prospector?
They call him the
the
Prospector. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the company guy.
it's with him. And they explain, hey, just so you know, we have a plan here, and it involves taking the Nadesico back. And there's a bunch of other guys here who apparently have been there all along, and they capture the new crew, which is the captain, all the girls whose names are totally relevant except for Rory, who is the one I remember.
Mm-hmm.
The keto guy, everyone, and they put them in the kitchen.
So
Nobody puts goat in the kitchen.
I believe this old crew, the Bull Cut Man, they are UF forces who were basically manning the ship while it was under development.
Okay.
So they're kind of mad that they were getting kicked out by now the crew that the company has put together and said, no, this is going to be the crew with Eureka and all.
I'm glad you said that because honestly, my take was these were plants. They were there to ensure the ship got back to the military. I really thought we kind of had like a Hunt for Red October kind of thing going on.
Yeah,
that was my thought as well.
I think if they weren't like leaving during a battle with the Jovians, they would probably have like fought more and gotten them off the ship first. But because there was an emergency launch last episode, they were still hanging around in the vents and whatnot.
So we split into two scenes at this point. They're concurrent, and we kind of flip back and forth. So I'm just going to talk about them separately. Eureka's with her dad, and he is so doting it's almost sick.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Almost.
I don't know what's going on with this relationship because I feel like he takes advantage of him in a way. That's where her military mind. This is where I can forgive her. It's kind of like a turning point for me with Eureka. She's fully aware that her dad is trying to be taking advantage, not of her, but at least of the situation to get the Nadesico back.
Controlling.
Yeah. And he thinks that he's being all, oh, you look like you've lost weight and all sorts of really weird stuff. But she's almost letting it happen. That makes sense.
She's playing into it.
I don't interpret the scene as Eureka being naive, or that she is using the situation to her advantage. At the same time,
yeah, she says so much later. It's just like, oh yeah, no, you were never intending to negotiate. You just played like you were going to, so you could come and ask me questions for your own ends.
Dad, I see you. You a liar.
I really do appreciate Eureka post watching this.
Hmm.
And then we have everybody else who's kind of relevant in the kitchen or the whatever kitchen. And as a way to entertain themselves, Guy has brought his own DVD player and DVD to watch his favorite anime.
He keeps the box set and Blu-ray player on his Batman style utility belt. He doesn't carry a pistol. He carries a box set of Geki Ganger 3.
Nerd.
Oh my god. Love this dude.
But nerd.
And
You
you
know
have
he-
your favorite. You have your favorite line of "Don't stay angry." For me, it's the voice actor saying, "Don't judge a movie by its poster,"
Mm-hmm.
because they start watching Geki Gengar 3, and it's hard for me to explain with words because words sometimes can be elusive.
Mhm.
How much I truly love this part. This is probably, of the episodes we watched, my favorite scene. So much unintentional fourth wall breaking. So many pokes at tropes that even I know thanks to this podcast we've done so far. It's just so appreciable. Do they really have to yell out the attacks? Is it voice activated?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All the different things. You're like, hey, I see what you're doing there. For me, as a very casual watcher, I enjoyed.
Let me tell you something. It's all completely intentional. Like the existence of Geki Gengar 3 is going to be more essential to the plot than you could probably guess.
Hold on. I gotta do the thing from the review of episode 1. I fucking knew it!
Oh, thanks to all of their shenanigans, Lakido is able to get to. I don't even know how they really escape, other than
Goat was dual wielding SMGs. That's all I know.
that's right. He's able to get into the robot while Eureka and Prospector go their own different way. I think to the bridge is where they're working their way to. And Akito gets in the robot and goes to take off. He's doing his manual release, which just means he leaves the ship.
Well,
It's a fancy way of saying it, I guess.
the catapult is offline, so it's just all right, manual takeoff. That means run and jump.
He used his super skates to help him out.
Oh, I love it.
And all this is because the Mattia is attacking. And so, interestingly to me, it's fun watching Akito try to pilot his mech, which I know it has a name and it's eluding me.
It's an Estevalis.
Ah, bless you.
I thank you. I am actually a super big fan of the Estevalis line, and I would kind of like a model kit of the artillery frame.
So the Estevalis is shown just going down deep into the water, Akito yelling at it to go up, and eventually it shoots up in the air and goes back in the water, and everyone else thinks this is some strategic move by Akito to distract the Tomatia because it's attacking with vines, as random does.
This is my favorite scene.
And Guy is like, I'm going to help you out because, of course, he is the best of them all and has his own robot, which, we never saw or knew about until just this point.
You didn't need to know. It's okay.
Yes. Out of convenience. If you squint, look behind there, you're like, oh, in the shadow, kind of, maybe. Anyway, Guy joins the fight with what, in my opinion, looks like a superior fighting robot.
So, okay. If you can make out what the lead mechanic guy is yelling as Akito is running for manual takeoff, he is saying the Estevalis is still configured for ground combat, not aerial or water. That's why he keeps falling back into the water, is because it is not set up to be flying right now. So the one that Guy comes out with is the aerial configuration. Yes.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so good.
I need to say, Haruka watching this whole thing with the walk on her head and her weapon of the broom, watching this happen on the 2D screen, a la Super Mario, is my favorite point. And she's like, "Oh wow, this is just really bad for you, isn't it?" It's like, I was like, "This girl gets me."
But again,
And
like
little,
he's surviving. He's not getting taken out by tentacles. He is managing when
That's
he is
true, going up and down.
severely at a disadvantage.
Yeah, I just love that. The visual is just perfect. And she's just like, huh? She's so placid about the unfolding of events. It's just like, oh man, to be so cool.
So little did you know, because we as an audience didn't know, that you can transform using pods. Who knew?
Right. So the sort of like cockpit of the mechs is the sort of like
Ejectable.
the lung section right under the head. So yeah, like Guy, because he still has a broken leg, has flown out with the aerial unit, and he's just like, hey, we're gonna do the get a robo thing, and he ejects his cockpit so that Akito can eject his and land it in the aerial unit, so that way, you know, the non-injured pilot can have the proper suit for the fight.
Oh, but we have to say the magic word.
You have
Yeah.
to say it.
And
Yeah.
I heard ground scratch.
Yeah.
Let me hold on. I've intentionally put something in my notes for this that I wanted to read. Hold on. This is a report. No. Okay, episode 2. Where are my notes? Okay, here you see, Bob. When one mecha loves another mecha, they will cross crash into each other and make a new mecha.
Oh my god. Yeah.
It's
No.
just-
Yeah.
Say it, ground scratch. You didn't say it loud enough. Honestly, Guy is just hilarious.
Honestly, the whole time I was yelling, like, "You're the reason we're all gonna die."
Guy is the best hype man though. Like that was in the scene when they're captured. Like the whole reason he started showing Geki Gengar is just like, oh, you all are already feeling so defeated. Let me show you an anime that'll get you motivated. And somehow it worked, or at least it worked on Akito because he's also an otaku. It's gonna turn out.
I did love that they have that moment of bonding. It's like, oh, good. We're not just gonna be enemies at each other the whole time.
But this pretty much, they used the flying mech to distract the Tomatia with vines long enough for the Nadesico to fly into the Tomatia and blow it up from the inside.
The Chalupa Supreme.
You keep calling Nabisco Nadesico, and I don't appreciate it.
They're not
It
sponsored
ends-
yet. We can't say that.
Oh god.
It ends with the kind of a cutscene with Kun at
June?
the end.
Friend zone Kun.
Yes, him.
Tails.
Kind of staring off into space, looking sad.
Yeah,
Talking
that's
about-
actually. Sorry, go ahead.
Just talking about Eureka.
Yeah, it was
And-
like exactly what I said on my notes. I'm like, oh, we're just gonna stare longingly.
And it
Okay.
makes me so annoyed. I'm like, can we just not have a love triangle? Can we please? Guess what?
Oh
Yeah,
right, because like he went over to the Federation ship for the negotiations, and then Prospector and Eureka just left him behind. They just like,
Yep.
it's like
Later.
left your kid at the supermarket kind of feeling.
And you know what? I'm okay if they eject him out the nearest airlock.
For me, it's only due to I just don't want to deal with this trope.
No, I agree with you. That's why I want to eject him out the nearest airlock.
I've got some bad news.
I know.
Yeah, the clip show already confirmed a few things.
Mm-hmm. Remember how this like smacks of Tenchi?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
I don't even
believe
know what
me.
Tenchi is.
Don't
think
worry
it's
about it, Bob.
It's one more than 9chi, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna get you back one day, Bob.
Does anyone have any notes left over from episode 2?
The one scene change that was when they're in the cafeteria and they're talking about Akito's past, and he's like looking dramatically into the cabinet full of all the meals, and the camera moves to one with the hot dog weenies cut into octopuses, and it
Oh,
fades into
gross.
the planet. I laughed out loud.
Yeah.
I do just want to point out your note, Joe, that Eureka's dad looks like the Tekken man.
Yeah. He does.
Yeah.
I don't know his name. I just know him as that dude from Tekken with the hair that goes like that and the mustache.
Uh-huh,
I
yeah.
completely agree as well.
You mean Heihachi from Soul Calibur 3 on the PlayStation 2 only.
Sure.
What an era. Okay,
Yeah.
Alright.
episode 3.
Episode 3, A Goodbye That Came Too Soon.
Are you
This
ready to
episode-
cry?
All the tears. All the tears. I feel like this episode is arguably the one that sets up the most that we kind of hook the future. We open with Earth being surrounded by, would you believe it, nuclear bombs. But they aren't bombs,
Yeah,
they are
let's-
just setting up a force field.
It's
Let's
a field with missiles?
defend the planet by sprinkling some nukes up there.
So, okay, they are nuclear-powered satellites, I believe is the idea. I don't think they
Nuclear
are
fission
nukes.
bomb, or nuclear fission driven.
Yeah, they're
The
like
thing,
mini nuclear power plants on each satellite in order to give it the power to do a force field?
All
the
I
interpretation.
Go ahead.
The interpretation I get from later on in this episode is that somehow they're getting fed the power from the planet.
Yes.
They do say that. That
I
makes
don't
no
know how.
sense.
Yeah, like are we just signal beaming this?
You need a really long extension cord to plug that thing in up there.
Yeah.
Just imagine all the nuclear energy just being radiated from Earth to feed into these.
Well,
now-
no, because I think it's the electricity that they're sending up there, which sure you can make sort of like electric fields.
Okay, I could buy that.
I mean,
I don't know
very-
what specifically it's powering, but
that's kind of how the Estevaluses work, but we'll get to that later.
I will say the thing that really caught my attention about this description is, again, headline of my notes is, nuclear defense is so good that they hit friendly targets.
Mm-hmm.
This,
non-discriminatory.
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
What the hell?
Which is funny because we know that like IFF systems exist because they're gonna say that that is why you need to get the magic pilot tattoo.
Yeah.
You get an opening, and theme song, and then we go to the meeting of the planet Earth. Essentially, the entire defense force is gathered together. It's representatives of all the countries of the planet, which I think it's kind of nice that they have that kind of to understand where everyone's from. They show
A real United Nations, if
yeah.
you will.
I
They
guess
United
I'm-
Federation.
They reference Japan.
I was it really like from different nations, or they're all the same army, just they're different, admirals of the regions.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they're kind of doing a thing where it's like, yeah, any spacefaring planet, it kind of has a one government thing
Right.
that they must achieve first. So
I just-
I do think this is basically like a United Nations. But what if the United Nations had its own army?
Yeah, I was gonna say
Well,
this is
yeah, it's
essentially
United
Starfleet
Federation.
minus the Federation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this absolutely felt like, I am the fleet admiral. You will all other admirals now report to me.
And Eureka's dad's there, and he's being as inappropriate as ever. Eureka happens to also beam in because everyone's kind of talking about the Nadesico, how it is this strong, and should they blow it up? Should they keep it? They aren't sure. And Eureka pops in, kind of says something about how he isn't sure everyone understands her, because everyone speaks a different language, and the president or commodore but anyway,
Fleet admiral.
yeah, it's like, no, we understand you. And she's like, oh, okay, well, anyway, I'm gonna do what I do later.
Oh, good. Okay, bye.
Yeah. Hey,
Pretty much.
could you turn the
she's like-
barrier off for a minute so we can leave? Because otherwise we're just gonna break it on our way out. Just letting you know.
We're going to circle back to that at the end, but I do want to say I do love that the Fleet Admiral's response is essentially, or solution to all this is yes. Well, I know we're fighting a war for our very survival, but the real problem here is the Nabisco. We need to shoot it down.
Mhm.
If we can't have it, nobody can. I'm like, man,
And
points for accurate depiction of military incompetence.
and Erika continues to get my respect because she is like, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. There's
Mhm.
no lovey-dovey stuff. There's nothing here. She's going
Yeah.
against even her dad. She's just like,
Yeah.
I do what I do.
She's
I
like
guess-
laying out, this is what we're gonna do. The consequences are up to you.
I guess
I'm gonna start swinging my arms through the air like this, and if you get hit,
and that's more or less how I read it. It's not, and again, it's the show has done a lot, like I said, to kind of make me question and on its part undermine any faith I had in her. So I really just read this as, okay, I'm just gonna do this, okay, bye, and it'll work out fine, rather than okay, I actually have a plan and I'm going to do this. I need you to all
But-
work with me. But I will say the presentation by her and her character also kind of robs it of that by intent, I'm sure.
We have a short bit of Guy and Akito watching their
Well-
favorite anime. Oh, go ahead.
but before we leave the last scene, this is I really want to point this out because especially last show talking about Utena and a couple of shows I've done this now, I bring up when a show presents a character who is gross, but I can't really tell if like the show is on the side of this person is gross or this person is comedy. I think this is a really good example of a show putting the gross thing and then saying, hey, we think this is gross too. Because we have this dad who has been, talking sexily about his daughter in a really gross way. And what we have here is we have this scene where like he is standing up and doing this, and we zoom out so that way we get the context of everyone else here thinks he is gross. There's no wacky music over it. Someone is calling him out on it like, really? Did you just say that shit? Really? Like this is the show, like, because when you are creating a show, when you are making a piece of art like this, everything in it is a decision. So the idea like to show to pull the camera out so we get this context of seeing how the world is responding to him, that is the show saying, hey, even in the world we are building, we are choosing to show you that yes, we also think that what he is doing is really gross and not copacetic. Even though we are putting him in here, we are also sort of modeling a response for the audience. Because, some shows will put the gross person in there, but they'll just let them say their jokes. I don't know why Deadpool comes to mind. I just don't like Deadpool. I don't actually know if it's that way. But like,
You're not wrong.
okay. But like to say like, okay, here is a gross thing. And also in our show, we are going to show you people reacting to that because that is sort of how we think people would react to that. And that is how we sort of expect you, the audience. Like
it's the show saying, yes, this is gross.
Yes. So I've gone on a lot a bit about like, hey, there are ways for a show to do the thing and then also make a statement that the thing is bad. And I think this scene is an example of how that is done. And I didn't want to pass by that because I spend so much time saying shows are not doing this when they could be, and here's a show that does.
You ready for a real tonal shift on me regarding pacing?
Sure.
When it comes to a character like that, I feel like an immediate response is due. So even, and don't get me wrong, 3 episodes is still pretty quick for any series in general. But I feel like someone should have already dealt with him by now, narratively. Again, that's me, that's my preference, because I don't feel that kind of character should really be tolerated.
Right.
But but I agree. I do appreciate that they finally got around to saying, seriously, knock it off, dude. It made me happy. I will say, for some of my conflicted feelings to this point in the show, I'm like, okay, that's a major brownie points in your favor.
So we cue to bridge talking about, and it's everyone but. Oh, I actually skipped over Guy and Akito in the room.
Yeah,
I
that was where I
love.
interrupted you. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. They're bonding. Once again, you get. I wouldn't say fourth wall breaks, but just references where you're like, yeah, like when Akito asks, "Why isn't the robot attacking the people or the monster?" And he's like, guy tells him that robots are fighting robots, and that's how it goes. You're sitting there like, okay,
It's very
That's what
self-aware.
giant robots are for.
it's fighting giant robots, nothing else.
Yeah, fourth wall kind of implies other stuff, but it's definitely doing like a self-commentary on itself and
It can
about.
get self-aware.
Yeah, it's really cool.
We flip over to the bridge, and they're actually having a sciencey, thanks to Brewery, conversation about how they're going to escape. And I thought my understanding was there was just the giant force field, but they're talking about breaking through 7 different layers
Yes.
Like a salad.
to get out of there.
A bean dip.
So I want to say it's something like, it is not like 7 layers of a force field, but it is like, hey, the first line of defense is we send out interceptor jets. The second line of defense is the satellites that shoot missiles, and then the last line of defense is the big barrier.
It's a layered defense. It's not all just a shield.
Yeah. I believe
it's the wedge salad of military defense operations.
But it's super awesome.
I mean, it works.
That they actually make it real.
Yeah. No, I don't think any of us are saying that's not cool.
So they go and have this explanation, and Eureka's like, I'm going to explain it to Akito and Guy. And she interrupts them as they're sitting there crying.
just bawling over cartoon robots.
And
I feel so seen. I feel
both the seen and attacked.
It's kind of funny, though.
Oh, it's great. Let me tell you, this whole thing with them bonding over a show. Yes, the commentary, but just them having their kind of quirky little thing that they share together while not being soldiers. I love those scenes in any kind of show, even if it's not a hobby I'm into or some aspect I find real interesting. It's like, I just like to see there's that depth of personality. So yeah, no, I love this.
I just love it because like, this is exactly the kind of otaku I am too. Like, there are specific songs by the Megas where, it is sung from the perspective of Proto Man talking about like how he can't go back to the hero he was meant to be. I cannot listen to those songs without tearing up. So it's just like, yeah, no, like it's the law of cartoon robots. Boys will cry over cartoon robots. It's just like this show is them like crying and talking to each other over this show, like that is not a joke. That is actually a pretty realistic depiction of a certain kind of anime fan, and it's me. That is a certain depiction of me. And so I love that it's just like it is there. They're just like, yeah, this is a thing that can be.
And you reference pacing every once in a while, and for me this is where the pacing seems a little weird, because we cut to the soldiers that were running the coup.
Right.
Now, how long have these soldiers been tied up? Because that directly relates to episode 2. You get the feeling that it's been a few days. But these soldier guys can just untie themselves at any given time. Is this some sort of weird thing?
I think this scene is them being put into captivity. That's why like the guards are at the door dropping them off.
Yeah. That's a
long hallway to be walking down.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big ship, Bob.
Well,
Like,
okay.
2 days later.
Yeah, I don't know how long it took to round them all up or get them done, but like, yeah, this is another thing where it's just like, oh, this is kind of happening now. So wait, what happened in this show so far? Because all of the negotiation stuff was last episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Because we opened with the defense meeting or whatever, the big captain meeting. So it's like, is this really a span of an hour from fleeing and blowing up the Tomatia in the water to suddenly interrupting this meeting saying they're going to space?
I don't know.
Also have that meeting talking about how they're gonna escape.
Yeah, and why would they just be dropping it? It does feel like it could have been like at least a day with just the logistics of getting the people together for this meeting.
It's a little weird.
Yeah.
But it's
Time
fine.
has no meaning here.
And yeah, the turncoats are like, yeah, why'd they tie us up with rope? We're in the future.
Which is a good question.
Mm-hmm. They have better stuff to use and they used rope. Okay. We flip over to June?
Yes.
Getting his own tattoo because he got left behind. So he's like, I'm gonna join the defense force. As one does.
A sensitive operation that anyone can do, really, as long as you just jam it in your neck.
Yep, and you get a fancy tattoo that just rises to the surface of your hand.
Also, my favorite. Hold on, let me get one of my favorite old memes: nanomachines.
Yes.
And fortunately, thanks to time not mattering at this point, becomes an expert pilot.
Yeah.
Nanomachines.
Yeah, I guess. I never thought about that. Like I don't
know. That got me.
I don't know what his job was before this point. Like, so he always seemed to just be like,
he didn't have a pilot tattoo, so it wasn't to be a pilot.
Yeah, I think he was just like Eureka's secretary or something, because he was with her in the very opening scene before she got to the ship. He was at her house.
Like, maybe he was her yeoman.
Maybe
doing what? Like just taking notes, saying pay attention.
I mean, kind of. That's what a yeoman kind of does. It's the captain's secretary, more or less.
Well, okay, hang on, because he isn't joining the UF. I believe he is already a member of the UF. Like, I think that is why he was paired up with Eureka in the first place.
I feel you are correct.
He does wear the uniform.
Right, and Eureka was in like the Naval Academy, which I have to imagine is run by the UF as well. So I guess the real question is,
he's first officer.
Okay.
I wasn't sure. I didn't get first officer vibes, but I was wondering if that was the case. But then they abandoned him.
He's a first officer on the Nadesico. He left a position in the Earth's military to join her crew and to look out for her.
Okay, so
and she leaves them behind.
Wow.
Okay, so they have left to join Nadesico, but they did both come from. Okay, all right.
I will also say, to your point about the pacing, Bob, I knew it was in my notes somewhere. And I thought it was one of my insanity notes, but it's really just states like it's been between when we ended the last episode to now only a few hours.
And it's only really this episode where it kind of hits me, I guess. It doesn't help that they're watching that cartoon because you think you could use that as a pacing, and you can't. Don't ever pay attention to when they're watching the show because guess what? There's another season that Akato didn't know about. Anyway. So the entire, well, not the entire, but the defense fleet was on the offensive to blow up the, well, I guess it is just to blow up the Nadesico at this point. They're like, we're done trying to take it over.
I mean, they would like to capture it, but, there's no choice.
And Guy's like, no, and he starts taking out regardless of how many people tell him no.
Mm-hmm.
There would be an off switch, but no, there is not. And that bugs me a little bit. It does. They could be like, oh, you can't fly out there because Guy is not known for his sane choices. Guy goes flying out. He has this plan where he's going to take them all on because he's the hero. He's the best pilot ever.
He has his little mental picture of his strategy, and it's drawn in crayon that we just sort of scan across this page. It's so good. I love it
so much. Guy also is pure of heart and dumb of ass.
He really is. Is he a himbo?
I can see the argument. I'm
Okay.
not willing to say or construct the argument that he's not. But I can see where the line there's. So I'm willing to say, sure, yeah, he's a himbo.
Okay. I
I
feel
mean,
like
he's not big and brawly, like brawny strong, but I mean, he's very capable at what he's doing in a surprising sense.
I mean,
So
I guess
He
maybe we.
must be buff and pretty, dumb, and respectful to women.
is he respectful to women? I don't really get one way
I
or
don't
the other. I
think
can't
he's
think of anything that stood
disrespectful.
out.
Not being visually disrespectful to women is
Yeah,
a step up from the status quo. Unfortunate to say.
By the Admiralty, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'll say, sure, he's respectful until I go back and watch it and find something I overlooked.
The
I
episodes that we watched, he is respectful. Well,
Yeah.
it's neutral.
is neutral.
Most he does is, not listen to smart
Anyone with a
sciencey
brain
people.
cell.
We never get to see him with his shirt off. I guess that's my big complaint here.
I mean, I'm fine with not, but I will say I don't know if he's necessarily he's more buff than I am. Because I imagine he's got to be at least in some decent shape to be in the military flying a mech. I can't imagine that G-forces are friendly to you if you are not in shape.
We don't know if he came from the military either because he was introduced as part of the Nadesico team, which was
Okay.
mostly made up of civil. Listen, yeah, no,
Even as a civilian pilot, even as a test pilot, I can't imagine he's sitting there with a beer gut.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or I have more issues with things coming up here.
He was an official pilot and arrived 3 days ahead of schedule when he learned they would be piloting actual robots, like in the anime.
I do remember him saying that. As like, you weren't due for 3 days, robot!
And then he broke his leg.
So yeah, he's very much on a pilot. And yes, knowing what the Air Force's regimen is for people who aren't even in the fighting or piloting classes, yeah, he's probably in good shape.
So buff, yeah, he buff. So are we missing any other himbo qualifications?
Sure, there's no proof. Yeah.
We'll get you that side manga one day, Bob.
Okay. Okay, so Guy is launching.
And because there's so much fight against the guy going out, they send Akito out, regardless of what Akito wants. Back him up. And Guy's not doing bad, but it's a good thing Akito's there because, the leader of the attacking force, the guy who just got a tattoo, no piloting background, is leading this group. And instead of, full frontal force and winning, decides he should challenge Akito because through robot fashion. And
I failed to see a problem here.
I love Akito in this. He's like, no, that's not how it works. And Guy's like, yes, it is. You're supposed to fight.
Yeah.
1v1.
That's what the animes I grew up on and no education taught me.
The way Guy is just bawling, eyes wide, the biggest grin on his face, and just tears streaming as he's telling the rest of June's squad to be like, no, you don't get to interrupt their duel. It is a duel for love and honor, and this is the greatest goddamn thing I have ever seen. And he is just losing his mind. Oh, I love him. I love the boy so much.
And yeah, Akito, on the other hand, is like, why? He is the me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I care for Akito as a character overall. He is the me. He's like, this doesn't even make any sense whatsoever.
Well, because sorry, go on.
I was just saying, I just want. We were talking off podcast about Brotherhood style productions because so many shows are starting to get like the Brotherhood treatment. I almost want that for this, just so this can be written out where Akito's just yelling at Guy, "Get in here and help me!"
Yeah. Well, so the part when Jun is like challenging him into a duel, he says without saying that it's like also for who gets the right to be Eureka's love interest.
Yeah.
Like he kind of walks it back and being like, no, it's for the Nadesico and the military, but it's like no, he's just like no, because I won't let the one who she loves instead of loving me be the what? I didn't say that. Let's fight.
It's just so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Doom does step in and kind of ends up stopping this attack on the Nadesico. And all three of them go back to the ship, with June being welcomed back into the fold somehow. And
Okay, so the two Estivalises, there is basically a Wi-Fi power range around the Nadesico, and they like went too far out to have this duel, so they ran out of juice. And then defense satellites start shooting missiles at the Nadesico, and June is just like, oh no, Eureka, the one I actually
Rika, yeah.
I must protect my family.
Yeah, so he jumps in and is like, if the only way I can help is by sacrificing myself, then I'm gonna do it. And then
June also has been watching Not Get Her Robo.
Yeah. And then like the Nadesico catches up to the mechs, and so they're back in range, and they just grab him, and they're just like, don't be dumb, the ship has a shield, come inside. And they do. They just drag him inside.
Yeah. Quit standing out there with the lightning rod, stupid. It's a thunderstorm.
But like I think that's why they like welcome him back so easily, because it's just like, you see, you do have like love and honor in your heart that you want to fight for, and we respect that around here because we watch that anime.
And it probably doesn't hurt that Kito's like, yeah, I'm not really interested in Eureka. Or Eureka.
Yeah, I like that.
It's just like, yeah,
June's
nah,
like,
dog, go for
really?
it.
So there is one last scene where a guy is just walking out to his robot because he marks all the kills he gets.
Put stickers on his
No,
robot.
he was putting stickers on the robots to make them go faster.
To mark his kills. He said it's to mark his kills. He's using anime stickers to mark his kills.
That's also foreshadowing because there's a shadowy figure and guy gets shot.
Well, it's a couple because it's the escaping prisoners.
And I can tell you that is probably the biggest cliffhanger ever.
Mm-hmm.
We do get, future episodes. No. That being said, I was genuinely like, oh.
Uh-huh.
And then I was like, wait, I don't care about Guy, but do I care about Guy? What's going on?
No, that Mav, Chuck, I love your note about I need these two to survive the show. And then 2 notes later, uh-oh.
Yeah. How dare you?
Uh-oh, John.
Oh no, it wasn't even uh-oh, John. It's those motherfuckers shot Otaku Jeff. Kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, it's like, the blood mist. Let me get in the show with an eraser. I will delete you from existence.
So we have one more episode to talk about, but do we want to talk about some of this now? Does anybody need me to like assuage some fears?
I am assuming I lives because of the next episode.
I got the opposite read of that because of the next episode, because of specifically the line, aren't you, never mind.
Which is it?
I'm putting money down. I will put hard money down right now that he bites the big one.
Guy gone?
Guy gone.
I say stay.
Guy go away.
Yeah, Guy go away.
That's sad.
It's very sad.
In its own way, that actually adds legitimate weight to the show, and I feel bad that episode wasn't included.
So here's the thing, though, Bob. You ready for my take on that, though? For all of my, like, we now riot because they killed Otaku Jeff. That is something that doesn't normally happen. Like, Outlaw star aside, typically doesn't. You don't see like death of like a name character like that, a promoted as probably a frontline character
Mm.
until much, especially in Mecha series, much later. So essentially, I feel like we've had at least, and this goes back to my problem with the pacing. I feel like we've had at least 20 episodes of like forced interaction check marks met in 3 episodes.
I can see where you're coming from with that.
Like, don't get me wrong, I'm still saying we riot and we go to the studio and knock their door down. But
I will say, for myself and my taste, I like this pacing better than too much, I guess.
I mean,
It
I can
feels
respect that.
rushed, absolutely. Well, maybe rushed is a strong word.
I,
It feels like you need to be paying attention.
yeah, like I was definitely going to ask, especially you, Chuck, about what you how you felt about the pacing on these episodes overall. But like, yeah, I think the pacing is actually decently paced, but they do a really bad job of like letting you know when there are big jumps, and
Yeah.
sometimes they don't let big moments linger.
So here's the other side of the coin of this for me. And this show did a lot of like, here's one side of the coin, but have you considered the other side? Which I have mixed feelings about. I will say that this, at least potentially, not knowing any more of this than what we've seen, gives the opportunity for this show to have done the okay, nobody is safe kind of stakes. Because we have now killed Wash.
Hmm.
We didn't even wait for our series to be canceled and then get a movie revival. We just did that in the first 3 episodes. How about that? And I will say, to its credit, I'm like, okay, that is a good way, though, for all of my complaints about the pacing, to kill off what appears to be one of the, if not main, primary, secondary characters. You're like, okay, you can at least get my attention from that.
And somebody who, like, if they're main, it is kind of because they have actually had a big effect on other characters already. Like, you know, he has been like,
Mhm.
he has kind of just like been there and been almost like a mascot for the rest of the crew, between, you know,
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
teaching everyone Geki Gengar, and the way that he and Akito like had a very fast turnaround from like, oh, don't steal my thunder, to, yeah, I love anime too.
Yeah, he really quickly, and by this episode, I didn't really realize it until I decided to lead a riot, that he became the heart and soul very fast. And I mean, again, for all my complaints about the pacing, that actually kind of helped that, because it's like, oh, I didn't realize I cared until he was dead.
Right.
And now I'm just the whiplash from that. Again, as much as I haven't liked the whiplash in other parts of this so far, I will say that gave me the okay, that actually kind of served a purpose, and it did. It should not elicit the response it did out of me, but it did. And like I said, you get points for that begrudgingly. But go on.
Yeah, again, that's kind of what I mean. Like when I think about like how to describe and pitch this show to somebody, sometimes it's just like, eh. But then when you're in the middle of it, you're just like, oh man, and it's just like it is something that works better than it does on paper in a really weird way.
Yeah, like this is one of those. This should not work, but based on everything I've seen so far, but it did.
Okay, so are we ready for a time skip? I guess, kind of.
Oh,
Definite,
man,
not really time skip. Time skip.
It's.
A
I mean,
multiverse skip.
it's yeah. Have you ever wondered if your life is really just the show?
Ooh.
Let's go with hot-blooded anime clip show.
And it is exactly that. So we open with somehow Gengar 3. And they start talking about how they're upset because it looks like they're getting ready to watch a clip show, which I know is a thing in American series.
It happens in anime too.
Yeah.
Bob, this is what we call a filler episode.
And it's very
I mean,
inside the box.
I love, honestly, how this episode started with Eureka doing essentially telling the audience, yeah, the New Year's episode is kind of rough, so, and we're behind, so enjoy. I'm like, oh man, again, for all the negatives I may have put against the show, I will say, I need more shows to just be honest with their audience like that. And just, if you're going to do a clip show, you're going to do the 7.5 or the 12.5 episode. Y'all just get out the door ahead of it, level with us. I will actually watch your episode then, because at least you're being straight with me.
Because we got the opening. Oh, go ahead.
And this framing device is at least sort of like goofy and fun. So even if it's a clip show, you're still doing something novel, like for the entertainment value.
Because I will say, I hate clip shows when they're just doing the clip show and nothing happens. I will cite Utena does a really good clip show on episode 13. This was while not the same, was different enough and the same in the sense of, like, this is not what you normally get with a clip show. I can enjoy that at least.
We open with the main theme. Then we got the Geki Gengar 3 theme.
I love it.
Because it's actually the Geki Gengar cast talking about the clip show they're watching.
Man, Get a Robo's gonna sue somebody.
So we got the opening with the Geki people watching our show. It opens with Rory and Eureka talking about the ship.
Okay, so sorry, but this weird costume like kids show thing that they do.
Yes,
this is actually a recurring bit on the show regular.
Really?
Yeah, whenever like a new like piece of MacGuffin technology is introduced and becomes a plot beat, they do one of these things to sort of explain it. So like eventually they use this to sort of piecemeal explain why the Nadesico is so like top of the line and important over time. But we get to see what was it, Rabbit or Usagi Eureka and Princess Ruri. They come back. It's a recurring kids show. I love it.
You ever see a bit or a trope done so many times, you just hate it, but you love it when it's done just right? It's like, I still hate this, but I love that I hate this right now. That's what this elicited from me. I'm like, oh, I'm so mad, but it's so well done.
It is too.
It's so simple.
So great. We got an explanation all about the Nadesico. Oh, it's such and such wide, such and such tall, and the things you didn't really know you needed to know about the Nadesico. Did you know? And I'm sure it happened in the episodes I did not watch. They talk about the hologram room. They talk about
discount holodeck.
The meditation room.
Bonk bot. Zenbot go bonk.
Which you want to talk about a moment that feels like it is like traced over a scene from Tenchi. It is that robot in that meditation room.
Yeah. Listen, you right.
Talk about the recreation room, which thank goodness they got the latest model of ping pong table.
The military grade table tennis table built to spec.
So good.
Oh my god, this is so stupid. I need it.
Then they take the time to go into the kitchen, meet the chef who like I said, I'm sure he was relevant in the past episodes. This guy has cooking down packed. He has a cabinet full of 111 different spices, because as he points out, there's people on this ship from every nation and he wants to give them what they want to eat.
This is the most important part of the ship. Fight me.
So I actually really want to talk about this because first of all, that head chef, she's amazing. Second of all,
yes.
that we see her get in on the guard bonking action back during the mess hall captive scene. But
with the military grade frying pan, yes.
Because Akito is a chef and he actually does spend time working as a chef on the ship, and we get to see that, we actually spend time in this kitchen and sort of like learning the personality of that head chef. And she is very much that exact thing about like, hey, you want to know how you keep an army motivated? Good food, especially food that reminds them of home. So like that thing that in a not clip show episode, they have a whole thing about like how she is like, yeah, no, we need to be able to like do cuisines from all over the world to keep everybody like content on some level, some baseline of comfort. And like the show spends like a lot of time and in that sense giving a lot of respect to like food workers. It is really, really cool.
I will even double down and back this up. This added so much realism with that moment alone, because I remember growing up and my dad served in the Navy, and he told me, he's like, you know, at one point I was like, maybe I grow up and be a chef. He says, if you do, maybe it's like, you'll know how good you are if they want you on a submarine. I was like, why is that? He says, because they eat the best, because they're trapped in a tube with just a bunch of other people and no windows and nowhere to go. They get treated right for that at least. And I was like, huh. So hearing that and seeing that, like, you know, that smacked of such believable realism. I'm like, yes. Again, the show does things it shouldn't be doing right.
Exactly. So you remember in like in Outlaw Star and kind of in 08th MS Team when we have like the like low key moments where we're focused on like a mechanics bay and just doing like like the maintenance stuff. This is a show with mechs, but they take those scenes and they put them in the kitchen and have them actually have like, hey, we are doing like we are doing like work labor, we are doing this food service labor, but also sort of giving the sense of this is also an emotional labor. Like we are here to be emotional support to other parts of the show, and like it is so cool to see. I'm just going to keep saying it. It's so cool to see that sort of respect given to food service.
Yeah, I really, as someone who just enjoys to cook, yes, I love that so much, and I like I said, this got so many points in this episode for that as well. Like how dare you actually know what you're talking about?
Mars Bowl sounds gross. There, I said it.
Okay, yeah, hold on. I got a thing about that, because when I was listening to the description of the Mars Bowl, hold on, because I gotta get this right. I could have sworn I had to go back and listen to this 3 times, because the first 2 times I heard it described as the Mars Bowl with Wheaties and Stroganoff, not weenies and Stroganoff.
Oh, it's totally weenies and stroganoff.
And it is. And this is like, even
that's the one we referenced earlier. The Joe sliced up bowl.
Taco weenies, yeah.
Yeah, the taco weenies. But it just the visual was enough to like, oh, that's what you said. And I'm like, oh, that jarred me for a minute. It's like, hold on, you said you're a chef. What are you putting in there?
You know what though?
It's a comfort food thing.
Like
this from Mars. That's what they like.
Well, I don't even know if it's what they like, but the idea of like, because normally if you're going to do like a beef stroganoff, you use like fresh beef, you use like ground beef, but
you use actual beef.
But I bet on Mars, because it is still like a colony settlement kind of thing, I bet they don't have beef, you can't do livestock, but you want to know what travels really well because it's been so processed. But they're processed. They are full of so much salt and spices or whatever in order to preserve them.
Meat?
You know what else is full of a lot of salt? Ramen.
Me? Yeah.
You know, I mean, me too, but I was leaving out the things that could still respond. Ramen. Ramen has a lot of salt. A lot of Japanese cooking has a lot of salt.
Yeah. But like I would not be surprised if that was almost like a thought out, like, no, this is a like a byproduct of circumstances affecting culture reflection sort of moment. That's super cool.
Yeah, I appreciate the thought. But again, you're doing things right that you shouldn't be doing right. How dare you?
Mm-hmm.
So moving on, we see clip show moves on to battles and kind of updates of the robots, as well as fights with the Jovians. I could have swore that there was a number 3 robot that gets introduced, I'm sure, at some point, because he's the ground shooter or whatever, and I swear he has a gun coming out of a place which is inappropriate.
That is the artillery frame Estavalis. Aikido pilots that one. It's basically another replacement body, like with the air unit.
Where the head can go into and operate it.
Yes. I think it only appears in one episode, so, gotta
They
make a
reference
toy.
it here.
Yeah. It's a cool episode.
It's a wiener gun.
So I don't think it is actually a wiener gun. I think it is like one of those guns that rests on a shield that you put down in the ground, and because of that placement,
it's like a blink and you miss type of scene.
Yeah. Well, it's subliminal. You love a sex sells, and so you make the robot.
A whole new reason to say give him the D.
But anyway, show cuts to break and comes back because then we flip to the villains. There's this big, like, skeleton, almost bloody-looking guy who's talking about how they need to attack the Geki crew, and the subservient one guy who I swear I just keep waiting for him to go, Snarf, yes sir, snarf, snarf, to move on. They start watching Geki Gengar. No, they start watching Martian Successor to learn different ideas to attack the Geki crew.
Yeah, they are collecting cultural data on Earthlings,
and this just happens to be what they grabbed. So, white lipstick lady, clearly in love with Snarf, is like, "Hey, look, they have this weird repulsor technology." And the guy's like, "Oh, I can use that to attack the Geki crew," and builds his own mech with the repulsor technology. And I actually have to say I like the art in this because it does a great job of differentiating between the two without you realizing it.
Yes.
There's strong lines, a little more cel-shaded than it is in Martian Successor.
So this
simplistic almost.
So this is very specifically aping the animation style like of the original Getter Robo, like from the 70s, and it was this very like thick black ink strokes, very little movement. If you've ever watched Speed Racer, that sort of like, oh, we're gonna make things move, but it's a struggle to do so that nobody gonna move that much. The fact that like the exact same like open get close get animation, they use the exact same frames at least 2 times during the fight scene at the end. But before we get to all the robot fighting, there is one more piece of information about the Nadesico that we go over.
The crew.
I actually don't remember that.
Oh, you don't remember all the hot gossip?
Listen, I was gonna say, Bob, you've skipped over probably my favorite part. So, Bob, Nick, I think we can tag team on this one, but
sure.
We meet. Okay, we meet from my perspective. We get 2 things that I love. A, we get our Ryoko, the purple-haired pilot, whatever she is. I don't know.
So that is the voice actress.
Megumi.
Yeah,
Megumi, yeah.
Yeah, built by Dr. Light.
She's the communications officer.
Yeah, that's
right. They got the voice actress to run the PA on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
That's the end of that joke, I'm pretty sure.
And I love it.
It's great.
I also love how much of a pest she is. Like I said, I saw her and I'm like, man, none of these characters are all that really great and interesting me anymore. Now we killed Otaku Jeff, probably. And again, we get the like talking about the robots, and then the comment made about Taco Jeff may not still be with us because he's sure not listed on the crew manifest now. Then I see her and like, why do I suddenly hear in the back of my brain, I know what I'm about. What?
Why am I interested again? That's weird.
And I just stopped and I'm like, hold on. Spiky hair, kind of a blue-gray. It's Ryoko! Yeah, she's my new favorite person. I also love the hot gossip. Haruka telling Mr. Goat he gets to wear the bunny ears next time later.
They are my favorite pairing.
They are.
Cute.
I'm okay. So I will tell you now. I was trying to say this to the end. Every fiber of my being says, "Do not watch this show."
Okay.
Me, because this is not my jam.
No.
I am watching this show for them.
I mean, I'll save you a little heartbreak. There's not a lot of them. Like it is definitely like
care.
It's background noise, but yeah.
That hey, listen. Sometimes background noise is the best part of the show. It's her and it's Megumi. I'm like, because if someone's got to be a problem, it should be a Ryoko, and why not you?
Well, with Megumi, that's also part of the explanation of the holodeck room from earlier, is because so what we get is, and this is one of the show clips. I'll get into it in a minute, but she invites Akito down to the holodeck so that they can do some Japanese high schooler role play, and oh no, my first kiss.
And he's like, no.
Here are my notes on that. It's like, okay, blah blah blah. It's like I'll give you the lead, and you can kind of see again my stream of consciousness writing for my notes on this one. And we get the breakdown of the ships. I'm like, yo, for real, I love history exposition and the ship breakdown. Weird that recaps episodes aren't my jam typically. Next one, the plushies fill in for the captain and the bridge crew. Okay, I'm fine with this. And then immediately when they're talking about the holodecks, really, we're doing the high school insert episode. Wait, hold on.
Uh-huh.
Is this becoming a hentai? What the hell's going on?
Well, so that's the thing. That is the scene where they're like, hey, in case you did not understand that we're doing a freaking harem anime, here is the part where they're in school and she confesses her love. Like, what?
And I won't lie, because we hadn't seen the rest of the harem until this point, I was thinking okay, weird space thing, pest captain, okay. And then it was like, I know what show I'm watching now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, we didn't even mention between the earlier episodes and now, the harem has expanded because
weird lady and her bodyguard or something.
Oh, even before her, the blonde scientist lady who takes over the stats explanation earlier.
Yeah,
she's only on screen for a second, but basically in about 3 episodes, we meet her on Mars, and she becomes a part of the crew, and she is like, okay, to just sort of make parallels to Ava again. You remember the blonde science lady from Ava?
Mm-hmm.
It's her.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's her name, but then my mind blanked out as soon as you said Ava. So thanks.
Yeah, but it's just her. If you want to know what that character is about, it's her.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And
a
then
reasonable one. Okay.
We get the lady and the guy who show up. So this show actually
clearly evil.
Yes. So
yeah, the brother sister duo.
What? Oh, I mean, I would believe it. But
listen, they gave me Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch from Ultimate Marvel vibes. I'm not gonna lie, and that is not a good thing.
Yeah, but so this show actually deals with the 7 centimeters per second problem or whatever. When there is a time skip element to the show where they do a hyperspace jump. And for the
they
crew,
actually deal with the time travel version of it.
Yes,
or how it alters time.
For them, it is instantaneous. But by the time they come out of it, years have passed. Yes.
That's
so
great. Time dilation exists.
Yeah, I actually appreciate that.
So that dude and that lady are basically in charge of the current iteration of the Nadesico project. I think they're literally trying to build a Nadesico 2. Like that's like the second Death Star is half under production, but so like he shows up in the next generation Estevalis, and he's the pilot and she's like the new prospector, because I guess they needed people to take over while Nadesico was, because Nagral was a company, and not only was the Nadesico like released into the world, but then it disappeared into a transportation tunnel for however many years. Months, years, I'm not sure, but it is a span of time, and they're kind of dealing with that.
Amount of time.
Yeah.
Listen, you're. This is the point now. These are the little points and details that were missed between the 3 episodes and this that would sell me on this series.
Right.
Those little, yeah.
Oh, and we get the 3 new pilots who are all girls.
Yeah. Those were what I was thinking you were talking about. Like, 3 new pilots show up with 3 new mechs.
And 3 new single character trait gimmicks that define their slot in the harem. I don't know, the one girl, she's all gothy and she speaks almost exclusively in puns. I'm all right with her.
Yeah,
she's my waifu. But yeah, so like I think that pretty much covers all of the characters who are introduced and become sort of primary characters between then and now.
We cue back to... Oh, go ahead.
And they all want to bone Akito, and he wants no part of it.
Yeah, I saw that. Here we're doing at least you're not straying from the trope too far, I guess. So I don't know if that's points, but
which I do actually appreciate it, because most of the time when you would see a harem anime, it is like, oh, the main character boy just like can't decide which one to go with, quote unquote. He can't decide which route in this visual novel to take, and that's why like it leads to the like everlasting triangle for the duration of the show. In this one, he kind of bounces around and has a little arc with a bunch of different people, but he never gives a shit. So they all just sort of calm down and go away. And
I can respect that.
Yeah, like asexual characters represent.
Good point.
Yo, is he?
No.
They don't say that.
He's definitely not, but he is kind of reacting rationally to being under the stress of being in a war. In that he's just like, I don't have time for this. I'm trying to figure out if I want to protect people enough in order to be a pilot and put myself in danger and kill people. Like he's like, I don't have time for a relationship. I have this shit going on.
I mean, I respect that. Don't get me wrong. That's like his endearing quality to me is like, I'm trying to live.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of this don't matter. I just want to live.
I'll deal with that later, if later even occurs.
If there is a tomorrow.
Okay. I think that's like everything from the gossip section. Ruri is still the best.
Yeah, Ruri, confirm real quick. She is a robot, right? Or
she is not a robot.
Artificial. Oh,
she
really?
is a computer baby. So she gets a whole episode about her past.
That's fine. We don't need to go further.
The simplest thing I can say is like she is like a Skinner box super genius baby.
Okay.
And that's why she can do computer things.
Okay, because I was between when we just circling back to episode 1. We bet Dr. Madman make waifu because I don't like my real wife and son.
Mm-hmm.
And then to her, I'm like, that's a lot of awful lot of robots in all one location.
Yes. No, that is actually unrelated roboticizations.
Okay.
There actually is one more major thing in the gossip section, which is the big flashback to Eureka and Nikito as childhood kids.
Oh yeah.
The youth sort of childhood kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get some of this where they're kind of talking about like, oh no, their relationship has always been this of Eureka is just like in love with him and in love with the idea of them being in love with each other, and Akito don't give a shit.
Mhm.
But I just want to point out that they don't say it here because it's a clip show version, but the reason why Akito has the pilot tattoo but wasn't military is because when they were kids, Eureka was messing around and started the construction equipment working, and he was struggling to bring it under control, and what you needed the tattoo to control those things, so he got the tattoo based on that in order to keep that kind of stuff from happening again. So he kind of got it. He does kind of have it out of a want to protect Eureka. So
It's
kind
her
of
fault.
it's her fault, but also like, you have to choose to do that. They don't go further into it, but like that is why he has the pilot's thing, but never was a pilot is because of being childhood friends with her and sort of the lingering memory of that.
I desperately want him to end up with anyone but her now.
Anyway, without saying whether that happens or not,
Don't worry.
I'm sure it doesn't.
There are more girls that get introduced later in the show. They're doing it the whole time just to keep options open.
we cut back to Gettiginger 3, that universe, find the villain, working out his repulsor ability, go attack our team. Fortunately, the team was ready. They combined their Megazord, and they use Gekigan Flare to take out the villain.
Which,
And that,
saying that it was inspired by the Nadesico show, when in Nadesico it was inspired by Gekiganger 3, and it's a meta.
and that's the end of the episode.
So
End scene.
how did I almost didn't include this episode because it's a clip show from the middle of the series, but I really, again, just doing the whole framing element and the way that this show is willing to be that sort of like novel compare, like even though it is like obviously like going down a checklist of a lot of standard tropes, sometimes they are still bring novel elements to it, and even some like character moments of the narration are still really fun. So how did this episode land for y'all? Because I almost didn't include it.
Bob, go first.
I think future episode selections, this is kind of a good idea. In so much that you actually sneak in several episodes in one.
I think
this was a great episode as far as the humor, the way you guys were talking, that maybe other clip shows aren't so fun. And trust me, watching American shows are never my favorite because it's like, I've already seen this. Why do I want to see it again? If it's a first time for me, a clip show may not be bad.
Yeah, when it came to Fifth of the North Star, when I was picking an episode for that, there is like a sequence of 4 clip shows in a row in the middle of that series, just sort of like it happens so late in the series that's how much it takes in order to cover like the up until now summation. But yeah, a lot of clip shows are basically kind of characters just going like, hey, we have a down moment, remember when this happened? Oh yeah, and then this happened. And it's really, it really is just sort of like the barest excuse to sort of summarize what has happened before this point. This
Save
one,
time.
yeah, but this one is, even though they are kind of doing that, they really are framing it. This clip show is framed more like its own little like pitch video. It is summarizing, it is explaining things, and it is not even necessarily caring about keeping it in chronological order. It is breaking it up sort of by topic. And I think that this, even as like a structure for clip shows, this one is pretty novel, even ignoring all the meta elements of the Gekiganger flip.
I will say this. You gambled with me on my part, for what it's worth, because as I said, clip shows, man, do they leave a bad taste in my mouth. Like, for example, You talk about with Fist of the North Star. Gundam Wing is not a perfect anime by and far. It is arguably not. Well, I will say, as far as I'm concerned, it is not the best Gundam. I still really enjoy it because it has the novelty of nostalgia. But you know what the thing it did wrong was, in my mind, and I can understand with almost 50 episodes doing this.
What?
It had at least 2 clip episodes I can think of, if not 3. And none of them did anything to kind of also present it uniquely. It was all same in universe. Well, remember when kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Someone reaches over into the fruit bowl, grabs out some member berries, and I remember when. I remember when the Wing Gundam blew up.
Which time?
That's my point. And it's like, yeah, we remember these things happen. It's all part of the narrative. And again, if you just leveled with me and told me, hey, y'all, we're behind. The Christmas episode was really hard, and then the New Year's episode was even harder because let me tell you, hangovers. But we're going to feed you some stuff. And like, there were so many other ways to do it. I mean, I could give you my mini TED talk on better ways that they could have done it specifically for Gundam Wing that would have been better. We're not here for that. So when I say that this one did it in a way that at least forced me to engage it on its level, which was, okay, you know those tropes you really, speaking to me specifically, you're not really that into and you really get tired of when you see it done all the other time in this, especially, let's be honest, harem genre.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to say I've seen a lot of them, but I'll call out Tenchi. I'll know. I see what it is. I see you. That, and even other shows that when they do their clip shows, like, man, are we just not really doing a lot or putting in any effort? This one actually put effort in, and I've got to respect that. Regardless if I like the show or not, I got to say, at least you did a thing, and you put extra effort into your clip show that was not required at all. And then on top of that, not only did you put effort in, you inverted this whole we're watching, we're now in the not Getter Robo universe, because I'm not going to try and say it. I'm going to butcher the actual Geki Geiger. Hey, I got it right, Geki Geiger. All right. What this does by putting in the Geki Geiger is watching the show we're watching, Nabisco, because I will not call it anything else. I really can at least say, okay, I like the idea that you're not just for this episode, but potentially, because I'm starting to get weird vibes off of that show. Potentially, we're both Geki Geiger and ourselves are actually watching the show, or there's more going on here than meets the eye. I can appreciate that. And that will even get more points out of me, to the extent of, as I've said, this and a few other smaller elements draws me in enough to say, yeah, I might have big regret at the end of this, but I'm willing to put my chips in on this to spend the time watching it, just so I have that moment of, well, at least I know now. And I'm willing to give it that shake.
Joe, thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of clip shows, but this turned it into its own thing that it was a lot easier to watch because it wasn't just a clip show. Like, there was its own little mini story in it, and just the presentation of, like, here's some facts about the ship and stuff, and presenting it in that sort of way was, like, interesting and able to watch it, like, as its own thing.
I feel like it's kind of like AA, because the first step to healing from a problem is admitting that you have a problem. So by starting from the premise of, yeah, we're doing a clip show, they like are leaning into it and not shying away from it and doing something interesting. And like, yeah, no, you gotta respect their cleverness, because what they did was they found a premise that was light from a production standpoint because you're just, re-editing a lot of existing animation and recording some new VO, but it still manages to be complex and novel conceptually because it's just like, hey, we're introducing like we're doing funny moments. We are shaping it in a way which is not just laying it out. We're sort of like restructuring information a little bit, and we're adding this meta element where we're just flipping it and just having real fun there. So yeah.
And especially in the context of this podcast, as Bob pointed out, like sneaking in a sneak peek of more of the show was smart, because I definitely see how like things change a little bit later on. There's like more going on than you would have gotten the sense of just from those first 3 episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we'll be able to pull that off again, because this is from all the clip shows I've seen, this one is pretty unique. But I was lucky. I'm glad I stuck it out. I'm glad y'all all found something in it worthwhile.
I will double back onto the making it unique. What it made me think of is in G Gundam, one of the episodes I had us watch, the last one I had us watch was, or one of the episodes, I don't remember if it was the last one, was essentially they all make it to the essentially finals tournament, and you kind of get like a brief little nod to like maybe what they've all gone through and what's been going on. This did that with the expanding on it, which I think is also what sells me. I can appreciate that if you're giving me that context, and I appreciate that. It's not just here's things that happened.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into some final thoughts. What do we how are we feeling about the show overall from what we've seen?
I think it's fine. It seems like it'd be especially good too if you're really into super robot shows and are able to kind of recognize a lot of the references and stuff.
I have a list here of things that shows that this show is cribbing from, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and then a 14th was added of different shows that this is like pulling elements directly from. So yeah, this is, I thought that this show might be good to select because I think it does, because it's kind of just checkboxing them. It is kind of presenting these elements sort of at face value, so it's a decent way to like, hey, this can give you some context for other things pulling from the same sources. But also, yeah, for those who have the you could almost do like for people who know all of the classics they're pulling from, you could almost turn this show into a drinking game of just like pick your favorite series reference, and every time they reference that series, take a shot, Every time something that is very Gundam happens, take a shot.
I'm not gonna lie, I considered that for a minute, but I don't have enough liver to lose.
I will save my opinion till last.
You've heard my opinion.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So I think you is last.
So sorry. Well, then I will interrupt here ever so kindly.
Hang on. Let me start talking so I can give you something to interrupt, and maybe I could just start like talking about my
I will
day.
now interrupt.
Oh my goodness. So the surprise for me was that this show was not what I was walking into. During you kind of talk about it last week, I was like, oh, this is just going to be the blandest of bland shows. And it's not. It's for me because I don't know the references of G Gundam or Tenchi Muyo. I say that right on accident because I like to really insult things on purpose to bug you.
You did get it right.
Well,
but if
crap.
you were trying to say Tenchi in Tokyo, then you mess it up.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Tokyo
No
Muyo.
one likes that one.
Yes.
No, Tokyo Mew Mew is a different show.
Oh.
That I ended up really liking this show.
Really?
Because it was very... we're on episode 16. I've seen 16 different anime. So for me, not knowing where it was pulling from, but recognizing the jokes, I really appreciated that. I appreciated a protagonist who really doesn't want to be where he's at. In a way that's both serious and not. Characters won me over. Just like Guy, and with reference to Chuck, that at a certain point it's like, I like this guy. This guy is funny. It starts off as this guy is arrogant, I don't care about him. I wish we had more backstory, and I'm sure it's there of the rest of the crew. From what I saw, it's like I can see them winning me over somehow in one episode and me not even realizing it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's my opinion. It's referential. It's serious and not.
How did you feel about the sort of juxtaposition of tones? Because like of what we saw, the show stays very consistent through. So like, if you're okay with the pace, it stays this kind of pace. If you're okay with the sort of like characterizations and interactions and sort of like the trajectory of character arcs, all of that pretty much stays the same. The show is very consistent in that way. If anything is, especially for me, but if anything's really going to drag, it's going to be the way that this show goes from lol, walk in on you naked to, hey, did that guy just die? Did that guy we all love just die quietly at the end of the episode? Hey, what the hey
that actually doesn't bug me. That weird time movement, as far as whether it's an hour or a day or a year, that bugs me. But as far as the pacing, it did not. Like I said, you pay attention, and I wouldn't say expect the unexpected, but realize that something may happen because maybe the show almost sets itself up. Oh, this is really funny, which means you're going to be hard slapped against the wall here pretty quick.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think. I just want to give a little, like, not heads up, but just like, so the next episode is like more than half dealing with the final scene of episode 3, and just be like the fallout of Guy getting shot. But also it is introducing the 3 new girls, and once they're introduced, it's just the new pilots, and once they're introduced, it's just like, okay, yeah, it's kind of business as usual. And then the next episode it feels kind of like a filler episode, but it is very much that so it is an episode about, hey, we are in the like long haul travel part of going to Mars, so everything is quiet and boring, and oh, how are we going to fill our time? But it's all about Eureka having to, like, hey, you got to do all the like ceremonial captain stuff right now, including holding like funerals in worldwide funeral cultural styles for all of the people who have died in the first 4 episodes in combat. So it is very much that weird, like, okay, we're going to go heavy, and then we are going to play it light, and then we're going to go heavy, and we're going to also play it off kind of light. And it does feel like Whiplash. Like, not everything is as bad as, gross dad oogling his daughter and boasting about it nonstop. But like, it is this weird, like, for some people I know that would be an issue, but yeah, if you can chill around that, then like, yeah, go for it. That also stays consistent through the show. So if
and here's my catch. I give this show probably a 7.4 out of 10.
okay.
But I will probably not watch it again.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
I have a backlog that needs to be filled. This show is goofy in a good way. If that's what you're looking for, this hits that point for me. I don't see it so much as a serious show, other than a funny show trying to spin serious plot points periodically.
Bob, you fail to understand the true nature of the anime watcher.
I know, to build up a backlog.
It's not just to build up a backlog; it's to build up a never-ending backlog.
The backlog is inescapable.
Yeah, the backlog.
There is no decision to it.
Yes, one doesn't know which came first, the anime or the backlog. Scientists have argued this for years.
I don't know that this is a show that I would go back to.
That's fair. I can see that, honestly.
I appreciate it for what it is. It doesn't know what it is.
So that being said, would you like some spoilers about where this show goes?
Sure.
Oh, wait, do I get to interject and say no?
I mean, yeah, no, if you're interested in watching, I will leave it.
And I realize this kind of flies in the face of everything I said earlier about I don't typically care about spoilers, but honestly, the more I've thought about episode 14, it's like, no, I've got some theories and I need to know if they play out.
Okay, but if I'm not spoiling this now, I need you to take a note, and when you get through this show, I need you to start doing the Nadesico updates.
Unlike Bob, I think I can commit to that bit.
Yes, all right. I'm going to add that to our outro process on our doc. Going to hold you to it.
All right. And then we have, I believe, theme songs.
Yes. So, let's talk about You Get to Burning.
I feel that they need a medicine if they got burning.
Is that the main theme's name?
That is the main theme's name. You Get to Burning. I always forget about it, but as far as I'm concerned, it may be like the top 5 things about this show is that intro song.
I would put this one at 7. I'll push down Trigun.
Okay, so below Neo Getter versus Shin Getter and above Trigun. Interesting.
Yep.
You Get to Burning. And what is this? This is Nadesico.
Nabisco.
Sorry. But yeah, now we have the weird technicality. Where do you rate the Geki Gengar 3 theme?
You ready?
Okay.
Push down Nadesico.
I'm actually happy about that.
Oh, that is beautiful.
Because I'm gonna lie,
it was so classic. It just,
Mm-hmm. The Nabisco theme honestly has kind of been like, it's there. It absolutely is a theme, is my feelings on it. So seeing that get knocked down by its own insert show theme makes me so happy.
It's just funny to me because looking at our list, now we have Geki Gengar at 7. Neo versus Shin Getter is at 6, but like G Gundam is at 10. Big O doesn't really count, but like, I mean, 08th MS team is all the way down at 16 at this point. Oh no, our song list is going to be longer than our episode list now because we had a double.
It's fine.
Oh man, I actually kind of dig that just because the chaos it invites.
Yeah, that's kind of great.
Then if we were to put Ruri on the Android list of our waifus, I don't think there's even a fight.
There better not be.
There isn't. She is just number 1 all the way.
And I love Melfina.
I love Melfina.
You are not wrong, Bob. This is the correct. You have chosen wisely.
Like, she's just... I just see you smile. I guess we're all idiots down here.
Yeah, I love... you saw my note. I love that. I was like, I guess we're all idiots down here. And I'm like, you need to live through this series or else.
There is...
Or else.
So, it's a good thing Ruri's like one of the best girls because she also gets like... For being like a Bridge Crew side character, I think she gets like the most like episodes surrounding her because...
I need to correct you.
Okay.
Not one of. The.
Right. Okay. There is an episode about the ship's AI, like, to use
it
Halo...
has an AI?
well, it has like I guess it's kind of OS is an AI. It's not like sentient, but it is like, it's got algorithms. But like, to use the Halo parlance, it starts showing signs of rampancy, and there's this. It's just like, why did it decide to go that way? But Ruri being, Android coded, Android waifu coded, the entire episode is about her like snapping back at all of the like Nergal engineers who are like, oh, we gotta flash the ROM and reset the AI, and she's like, no, he will be different if you do that. Don't do that to my friend. And they just look at her and it's like, well, she is friends with the AI who controls all the missiles on the ship, so maybe we'll leave it alone.
This is Data and the exocomms from Next Gen all over again.
Yeah, that's. This show's all right. This show's got a.
Props for AI rights.
Yeah, like Bob, when you were saying that I made this show sound like it was bland, like.
Huh? It's hard to explain. Like it's such a, as you put it,
like,
it's a combination of things, and
the
I don't want to put it on the list.
The premise itself is kind of like you figure, oh, it's something that's like cribbing from a bunch of other shows. It's just going to be like references and no substance.
I think maybe bland is the wrong word. Now that I've revisited these couple of episodes, I think the word is just flat.
You gave me the impression this show was bad.
Really?
I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, like I was genuinely concerned.
I got into this thinking, oh, and then to watch it, it is enjoyable. It's just.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense on paper because it is like, oh yeah, no, it's kind of built piecemeal. It kind of has these weird pacing problems. It's all of these things, but like, it is so chock full of like moments and character moments and like relatable, like episode 1 when Akito is biking and he's complaining about like, how come I can't keep a job at a cook? No one says I gotta go fight. What's wrong with me wanting to be just like a coward that I am? Like, even small moments like that are really like well written and resonate. So it's like this, the pitch on paper is very like bland, and when you watch it, because of the pacing stuff, because of how like flat a lot of characters are as byproduct of going really hard on being a harem show that is just like standard for harem shows, like I would call it flat. Like it doesn't have a lot of, for as much tone whiplash as it has, it doesn't really have peaks and valleys. It is very constant throughout, but the stuff in there that is constant is just like, yeah, all right. It's like a big bag of popcorn. Like, is it really like satisfying? No. Is it, are you gonna find like a crouton or a tomato in there to really spice up the flavor palette? No, it's popcorn all the way through. But you know what? Popcorn's pretty nice.
Hey, as someone who just worked his way through a bag of popcorn the other day, how dare you?
No. That's what I'm saying. Like you say popcorn and it's just like, it's corn that's been heated. It's on paper, it sounds so bland, but like, I should go make some popcorn. Yeah, no,
salt.
It doesn't mean it's not a good time.
Extra salt.
It does mean it's not a good time. Blech.
Meh.
Bob has poor food taste. Bob's takes on food are concerning.
Did we have any horses?
I don't think there are any horses.
Is the Nabisco a horse? I mean, it has 4 appendages of sorts, branches off the main body.
Or appendages. That just sounds horrible. And
if it has a simulated intelligence bordering on AI rampancy,
no, it never like speaks. Is the thing.
Oh, okay.
It is just sort of about
horses
like
don't speak.
When you search, what search results do it return, and it's only really in that one episode where they really deal with it and suggest it. Yeah, I guess there's no horses. I'm trying to remember because the Nadesico is very clearly a white base.
Oh, yes.
And I'm trying to remember if white base, for some reason in my mind, one of the other Gundam shows has a white base equivalent that has like a name of a famous horse or something like that. Maybe I'm making that. I don't know why that horse connection to white base is in there.
It might just be the name of the ship. I don't recall any of the ships having an AI.
Maybe
or anything bordering it.
Maybe I'm thinking of Gundam Unicorn, because a unicorn is just like a horse with a big tooth.
Yes, it is. It is the four-legged
Also
narwhal.
nicknamed the Trojan Horse.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's
okay.
That's what. Yeah.
So, white base. Where is it on the ranking of horses? Maybe it's one of the runners
is a military starship.
No, we're not putting this on the horse list.
No.
All right, fine. Okay, fine.
We'll allow a moped.
Because it is stuck to ground traversal. So therefore it counts as a horse.
All right. So that is Martian Successor Nadesico. We have tallied the tallies. We have ranked the ranks. Now it's time to talk about next time.
You know what's really good this time of year? Summer break. You know what's really good during summer break? Seeing movies.
We just finished our old head anime tier, which puts us at the halfway point of our total list in terms of number of shows watched, not number of categories. So we think it'd be a fun time to take a break and watch a movie instead of a whole show to talk about. Specifically one that we watched in this category.
A spin-off, if you will.
Yeah, we think it would be great to subject you to an example of Western media making a movie out of an anime.
Okay.
Bob, you like muscle-bound men, don't you? You like gladiator films?
Think this is going somewhere. Please take me on this trip.
We are going to subject you to the live-action Fist of the North Star movie.
Beep, beep. Bob, get in the truck. We're going to the desert.
Live-action, Western produced.
Yeah.
Oh, goody. This is going to be like they made that Dragon Ball movie and some people got upset because of...
oh, yeah.
Bob gets to experience what it's like to watch anime and then see it handled by Americans in live action. That's what we'll say, handled.
Yeah, handled or molested.
Handled.
Okay.
I wasn't going to lead him, but since we're doing that, butchered mercilessly.
Format-wise, we are probably going to naturally do a little different type of episode.
I hope you all like MST3K.
I do. I love it. All right. Well, with that to look forward to, we're going to get out of here for this week. So I want to thank everybody for listening, and we will see you next time.
Get in the Jeep, Bob. We're going.
Oh.
Deep in the Weebs is a show by Chuck, Nick, Joe, and Bob. Our theme music is Kawaii Friends by C. 3. You can find our show on YouTube, or subscribe to the audio-only version on iTunes or wherever podcasts are served.
Okay.
Try my lemonade.
You know, I hear around the corner you can get some... Never mind.
I call it Rocket Fizz.
It probably wouldn't be fizzy.
I mean, doctor said it's
carbonate anything in those soda streams.
But I mean, if it comes out carbonated, you got some sort of microbial issue.
That just means you're kind of part soda stream, and isn't that really the get?
Can it be a different part, please?
I know. What part do you want to be different? What part of you do you want to be replaced by a soda stream? Think carefully on your answer.
I'm just picturing a tube coming out connecting to a carbonated or one of those carbon tanks.
Tear ducts.
I cry 7-Up.
But imagine how cool it would feel to have to when you reload the CO2
Imagine the
canisters.
Oh,
Oh,
right up the nose. Okay, anyway.
Yeah, now that we've officially derailed the derailing.